across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good afternoon and welcome to Drive Time right here on Talk. I'm Kevin O'Sullivan and I'll be your host for 3 electric hours of news, views and topical debate all the way to 7 o'clock. Get on the show, get it off your chest, get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can WhatsApp voice note me on the same number and I promise to play your message out. It is Wednesday, August the 19th. Here's what's coming up. As Burnham's spiteful government bombards middle-class areas with massive migrant camps, the cost of the proposed giant asylum seeker centre in the middle of the North Yorkshire village of Linton-on-Ouse has been revealed, and the eye-watering expense to long-suffering taxpayers just adds to the scandal of the escalating crisis Labour has no plans to solve. Each foreigner will set us back £500 a night. In other words, the 1,500 young men in the asylum camp will cost us £750,000 every single week. £750,000 a week. Meanwhile, huge new migrant camps are planned in the Oxfordshire village of Piddington and the Norfolk town of Burnham. And a 600-strong detention centre is coming soon to torment the furious residents in Gosport, Hampshire. As this dire situation spirals out of control, our unelected Supreme Leader, Comrade Burnham, stands in a Wolverhampton bus garage droning on about his favourite super dreary subject, bus fares. Today's super dreary subject is rough sleeping. All due respect to rough sleepers and homeless people, but this is not the issue at the top of most people's agenda. So there he is in a bus garage talking about irrelevancies. Meanwhile, Stop the Boats doesn't even cross his mind. Why? 0344 499 1000. And across the channel, a French politician insists that if Britain won't do anything about the many incentives that attract chancer migrants to climb aboard the small boats, it should pay more money to France to patrol the beaches. Obviously, we should not give the French another penny. In fact, we should get our money back. But Monsieur Xavier has got a point. As long as the UK keeps treating illegal migrants so ridiculously generously, the boats are bound to keep on coming. We've handed Mini Macron a staggering £1 billion over 3 years, and 2 months ago, Home Secretary Shabana Mahmood coughed up another 600 million or so. For what? What are we getting for this money? 0344 499 1000. In other news, when he was still wrecking the economy as the mad as a box of frogs Nut Zero secretary, Crazy Ed Miliband rejected an analytical report that could have saved Brits more than 540 quid a year on their energy bills. Big surprise. Never mind your welfare, never mind your cost of living struggle. Virtue signaller Ed has got a planet to save. 0344 499 1000. Plus, the powerhouse police officers planning a workshop session to teach villagers how to make scarecrows and dress them up like speed traffic cops. This is a true story, folks. Strange, but true. Stay tuned for the extraordinary details. And finally, White House's Battle of the Blondes sends Melania into a rage. More of this all-American drama consuming the president right now later. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Wednesday afternoon together. Very pleased to say for the first 25 minutes or so, I'm going to be joined by the excellent author and columnist Jake Wallace-Simons. Welcome, Jake.
Hello, hello.
Good to have you on the show. I want to talk about this guy, Sam Rushworth. He is the Labour MP for Portsmouth South, I believe. Might be Portsmouth North, but it doesn't really matter. He was on Jeremy Kyle's breakfast show this morning here on Talk. And he spoke about what he saw as the incentives, the reason all these migrants come through all these countries. They reject France, in a sense, they reject Italy, Germany. They come through all these countries. They get to the north coast of France because they want to get on a boat and get to the promised land, Britain. So Sam came up with his reason for this odyssey that the migrants just keep on making. Take it away, Sam.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors. And I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language. And the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
I got it wrong. It's Bishop Auckland that Sam represents. Now, just to let you know that Sam Rushworth is a bit of a foot-in-mouth specialist. He was on Breakfast last week talking to Ian Collins. Here's what he had to say.
This boat that's just come across is really shocking and worrying. It's the biggest ever. But you know what? The second biggest ever was in July 2023, when 165 people came on a single boat. Now, who was in charge at the time? Well, Suella Braverman was the Home Secretary. Robert Jenrick was the Immigration Minister. Both of those are now Reform MPs. And Chris Philps was the Crime and Policing Minister at that point. And these are three people who've taken to the media in recent days, making out like there's some magic wand that you can wave at these problems and they just go away. If it were that simple, why did they do nothing when the Reform and Conservative MPs were running our country and were overseeing this crisis at its absolute height?
Look at his beady little evangelical eyes there. The only problem, that great point he was making to Ian Collins last week, the last time a huge boat came across 165 people, that was July 2023 when the Tories were in charge. The problem was it wasn't in July 2023, it was 2 weeks ago. Mr. Rushworth, perhaps Labour might want to keep him off the airways. But what worries me about what he said about, the big draw for these migrants is because of colonialisation, because of the awful British Empire, they can all speak English. Most of them, the vast majority of these migrants, can barely say hello. They cannot speak English. So that's just nonsense for a kick-off. But it gives us a window into the psyche of Labour MPs. These Labour MPs in the Cabinet, most of the Cabinet, actually believe that's the big draw, that they can all speak English because of the British Empire. It's not. The big draw is 50 quid a week benefits, free four-star hotels, free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, free driving lessons. Those are the draws, not the ability to speak English. Meanwhile, you've got that guy Darren Jones, who used to be Keir Starmer's sidekick. He goes on to Question Time and says, well, the vast majority of these poor waifs and strays fleeing war and torture across the Channel are women and children. That, again, is nonsense. These Labour people have invented a whole narrative around these migrants that just is not true. It's really worrying.
That's right. I mean, the basic facts of the matter are as clear as day for anybody to see. Fact number one is that these people are coming from nowhere more dangerous than France, the very country that I went on my holidays this summer, and many other millions of Brits go on our holidays, and they're fleeing, putting their lives at risk to come to Britain. They're not coming from a war zone. They're coming from Calais. That's fact number one that we need to get straight, and that alone discredits them as refugees and places them squarely in the category of criminals breaking into our country without any plausible excuse or reason. They should be treated as criminals. They should be locked up. We should be creating a kind of pop-up prison like on the same principles as the Nightingale hospitals. Remember those temporary hospitals that were put up overnight almost during COVID? Do that on some uninhabited Scottish island, stick all of the migrants there, not in inhumane conditions, in reasonable conditions, but without a mobile phone, without access to benefits, certainly without access to the black economy, to work in a nail bar or a car wash illegally and make cash in hand. And then we should keep them there until they are deported. I mean, to sort out our international obligations, change change the law if necessary and get them out. And that would solve the problem. That would take away the deterrent and crash the business model that the people smugglers are currently selling online across the Middle East and Africa. And the problem, that the reason why the government isn't able to embrace that common sense policy is because it was revealed by that MP's slip of the tongue talking about our colonial past, and that's why people can speak English and that's why they want to come here. It shows that because he's so obsessed with our supposed indiscretions from our colonial history,
that's right,
unable to respect our own borders now, unable to respect our own people now, unable to respect our taxpayers now, thinking that because of our sins that he bears so heavily on his shoulders, we're now obliged to have a kind of payback and welcome anybody who can make it over the channel, any of the young men who can make it, having risked their lives, welcome them with open arms and give them a place in Britain. That should not be how it works. I'm not against immigration as a whole, but I'm certainly against mass immigration, uncontrolled immigration, and illegal immigration. We have to respect ourselves in order to offer safe haven to real refugees and a place in Britain for immigrants that we want who are going to benefit Britain and assimilate properly, not an open door to all and sundry.
I'm afraid that Sam is representative of many people in the Labour Party, including cabinet secretaries, insofar as he believes we have to give these people refuge because we invaded their country during the high times of the British Empire, our imperial past. What a lot of nonsense, absolute nonsense. As I say, these people have created an entirely false narrative around what's going on. This is basically a situation where thousands and thousands of young male chancers, economic chancers, are coming across the channel. And if you doubt that, you know, when you get Darren Jones, it's women and children. Sam Rushworth this morning said, oh, no, it is a high number of women and children. If it's a high number of women and children that are coming across the channel in the not-so-small boats, they're pretty massive now, how come the proposed migrant camp for 1,500 people, which would make it the biggest in the country, in Linton on Ouse in North Yorkshire, is purely for young men? How come the 545 migrants in Crowborough, in East Sussex, in their army camp, are all young men? How come the proposed massive migrant site near the village of Piddington in Oxfordshire, 1,250 people, all young men? And yet Labour MPs, cabinet secretaries depict this as the flight of women and children, who, in the end, we owe refuge to because we were the evil British Empire who invaded their country. Now, this false narrative that fuels our government, I think, is terrifying. As is, let's move on for a second, Jake. We've got a story emerged today in the Telegraph. A record number of foreigners are now claiming benefits in this country. 1.3 million non-Brits were receiving welfare benefit payments in May. A year ago, 20,000 fewer. So that number's gone up by 20,000 in a year. And you know, I know, it will continue to rise. I think the basic question has to be, most people are very bemused. Why do we give benefits to any foreigners? Surely benefits should be for Brits.
Yeah, I think that the thing that's so frustrating about this story is that it just seems so unfair that we pay our taxes day in, day out, week in, week out, year in, year out, in the knowledge that there's a safety net there for us, that if the worst were to happen, we could survive on the handout which we paid into until we can get ourselves back on our feet. Now, that system is made a mockery of when you've got, for a start, Britain's languishing on benefits without ever having lifted a finger to work in their lives. But aside from that, on top of that, compounding the mockery of it, is this 1.3 million migrants claiming universal credit in May, 20,000 higher than a year ago, which is, by the way, quite a lot more than the population of Piddington. And so, you know, these numbers are going up and up. Foreigners who have not paid into the system are withdrawing from the system. Our hard-earned money, it's not the government's money, it's our money that the government has taken as a custodian to spend on making our lives better, instead splashing it on making the lives of people who haven't paid in better, foreigners better, and creating a massive incentive for them all to come into Britain in the first place. Through our naivety, or through the government's naivety, we've made ourselves the #1 incentive capital of the world for migrants to come, both legal and illegal, from Afghanistan to Europe to the EU, pouring into Britain to take advantage of our largesse. And we cannot afford it. Our economy is not in a good state. We're going down and down year after year. Our taxes are going up. Welfare bill is going up. Red tape is going up. People are groaning under the pressure of this government's economic policies. We cannot afford to splash our own hard-earned cash on making foreigners comfortable when they haven't paid into the system in the first place.
Yeah, absolutely, Jake. And all you need to know about the insanity of this country and the way we just hand out money to foreigners who pitch up here is that when these migrants come across on the now mega dinghies and not so small boats, so they break into our country. The voyage itself is unlawful. It's an unlawful vessel. Then they break into our country illegally. And the first thing we do with these people is say, right, we'll be giving you £50 a week benefits. That's the first thing we do. And then we put them into a 4-star hotel. Then we give them free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, free driving lessons. And no wonder the French are tearing their hair out. They're saying, how do you expect us to stop these people when you're offering all these incentives? They're absolutely right. I'm with the French on this. Let's talk generally about our economy, or should I say our financial crisis, because it gets more worrying by the second. It looks as if we have a Prime Minister who just doesn't really want to think about this. He's too busy obsessing on bus fares. Inflation has soared to 2.9%. Gas prices have rocketed. But here's the worrying thing. The global bond markets are said to be on fire, meaning that Britain's already astronomical borrowing costs have soared. We are getting ever closer to the precipice where we're going to go bankrupt. I keep saying this, but just to give you an idea, I'm sure you know this, Jake, but if any of the audience don't, just to service our national debt, which is at an unprecedented high of more than £3 trillion, just to service that debt, not pay it back, we have to pay out £3,488 per second, £3,500 per second. And we've got a government that's doing nothing about it, nothing to cut this down, and pretty soon we are going to fall off a cliff. And this Chancellor that we've got now, called Healey, might be the first Chancellor called Healey since the last Chancellor called Healey, Dennis Healey, Labour Chancellor, had to go to the IMF, the International Monetary Fund, for a handout. We are approaching that dire position, aren't we?
The poor man of Europe, that's right. I mean, the last time the British government had to borrow at this price, Northern Rock had about a fortnight to live. So, you know, no one's saying that we're there again, but the market is charging us as if we might be there again, or almost. You know, the Chancellor's got a budget coming up on the 28th of October, and he had a £24 billion buffer, but half of it's already been eaten by events that he didn't cause and can't control. So he hasn't even written a word of his budget, and already the bond market is beginning to write it for him, or constrain his ability to write what he wanted to. You know, you only got to cast your eyes abroad and see that look at which countries are not being punished in this way. Switzerland and Germany are not being punished because the markets aren't frightened of debt as such. They're frightened of debt in countries that aren't being managed responsibly. So Britain and France and Japan all being charged a premium for their political dysfunction. So it's not a judgment on our economics so much as our politics. There's no confidence in this government to get us out of this hole, but only to dig us further into it. So yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. The country is being mismanaged economically. The latest figures show that. You know, Bank of England target of 2%, we're now on 2.9%, with, you know, other further shocks to come from the food production problems from the hot summer all the way through to energy prices going up likely in the winter as a result of the Iran war. We need a responsible government that's managing the economy with headroom to allow for shocks, rather than living beyond our means to begin with and then being pushed even further into the red when unexpected things occur.
All of these extraordinary crises unfolding before our very eyes surprised, Jake, and we have a Prime Minister who's droning on about bus fares. Great, bring the bus fares down, that'd be very nice. And finding somewhere for rough sleepers to stay at Christmas. Again, very nice, but come on. We have more important things to talk about, to think about, and he seems to be dwelling on planet parochial. It's really worrying. Good to have you on the show, Jake. It's always a pleasure. Thank you so much. Jake Wallace-Simons, author, columnist, author of Never Again, How the West Betrayed the Jews and Itself, and author of Israelophobia, the newest version of the oldest hatred and what to do about it. You can see his work regularly in the Telegraph, sometimes in the Mail. Great journalist. Read his stuff. It's excellent. Right, we're going to go to a break now, and very pleased to say that from Migration Watch, Out Mehmet, the big boss there, he's going to be in the studio. We're going to talk about a couple of, well, we'll talk about the migrant crisis generally, but there are a couple of stories that have emerged that will make your hair curl. So, Alp Mehmet next. Stay tuned.
There's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language, and the other is that there is a black economy.
Sam, you're not telling me a majority of migrants who come to this country can speak English, are you?
A lot of them come because they feel they can work better in the English language than they can in many other European languages.
Explain to me then why they don't bring their wives and children.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Well, very pleased to say that in the studio we have the chairman of Migration Watch UK, excellent organisation, keeps an eye on our spiralling migrant crisis. Alp Mehmet, welcome, Alp.
Good to be here, Kevin.
Now, this has cropped up today. We've got a couple of big stories to discuss, especially the cost of this proposed new massive migrant camp in Linton-on-Ouse in North Yorkshire, which will make it the biggest migrant camp accommodation centre in all of Britain. The cost of it will make your eyes water. We'll talk about that in a little while. But this cropped up today. Alp, Labour MP for Bishop Auckland, Sam Rushworth, was on Jeremy Carr's breakfast show here on Talk. And I'm always fascinated to hear these Labour MPs, these cabinet secretaries, when they start talking about the migrant crisis, because you always go, Is this the same migrant crisis that that we're all experiencing? Because it seems to be kind of different. Anyway, this is what Sam had to say to Jeremy Kyle. This is what he thinks entices all these young men across the channel in small boats. Not very small boats these days. Take it away, Sam Rushworth.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors, and I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language, and the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
That's utter nonsense. I mean, anybody who goes across to Calais, I mean, most of these migrants, you'll know this, Al, most of these migrants, the vast majority of them can barely say hello. They can't speak English. But what he is revealing there, the window into his tortured psyche, is that these Labour lefties, these cabinet secretaries, backbenchers like him, they believe that we have to give these migrants refuge because we invaded their countries all those years ago during the height of the British Empire. That's what they think.
That's the biggest load of specious nonsense I've ever heard in my life. I mean, it's an insult, really, to anyone's intelligence. And I just, it beggars belief. I'm almost lost for words for what this guy is saying. Look, the British Empire, I personally, having been here 70 years from it, I've got nothing but good to say about it. That aside, if he's suggesting that everyone now who's displaced, that has been made really homeless or moved from where they lived because of anything that we've done, so is he saying that the 120 million people who are now displaced all have a right to come to this country or have a right to go to any other country? That's just dangerous nonsense.
It is dangerous nonsense, and it's factually untrue. Everybody knows that most of these migrants, the vast majority of them, can barely speak a word of English. So it's a false narrative, but these... it's the same kind of false narrative, as I said, that Darren Jones, Keir Starmer's former sidekick, delivered on Question Time recently when he said the vast majority of these poor waifs and strays escaping war and torture coming across the Channel. Last time I looked, there's no war and torture in France, but that's another issue. He said the vast majority of them are women and children. No, they're not.
Well,
they're not. The vast majority of them are young Chancellor men.
The man's lost it, I think.
Yeah.
I hate to say that. But look, if they all spoke English and if they all were so familiar with this country, then perhaps they'd integrate a little more readily and a little more quickly than they do. The fact is that the vast majority don't speak English.
Exactly right, exactly right. Now, this is what I wanted to get. There's a couple of stories that I want to get your take on. This is extraordinary. So for some time we've been covering the story of the poor village of Linton-on-Ouse, that's in North Yorkshire. It's got a disused RAF centre right in the middle of it. Now, around about 4 years ago, the locals won a campaign to prevent that disused RAF centre becoming an accommodation centre for asylum seekers, because they said we're in the middle of nowhere, we do not have the infrastructure for this, and even the government accepted. Yeah, you got a point. Well, that campaign is now useless because the whole prospect has raised its ugly head again, and it looks as if they are going to get a accommodation centre for asylum seekers, all men, all young men, 1,500, 1,500, which will make it the biggest migrant camp in all of Britain. The cost has just emerged that it's extraordinary. Each one of these 1,500 migrants will cost us, British taxpayers, £500 a night. That means in total, these 1,500 will cost us every single night £750,000, £750,000. That adds up to £5.25 million a week and £274 million a year. This is ridiculous.
It is, and in a way, the cost is not the least worrying, but less worrying than the danger that we're exposing our communities to.
Straight.
We're talking about 1,500 young men, all of them who have come here illegally have disposed of their documents. They've got no identity documents at all. So here we are actually accepting their word for it, that they are who they say they are, and indeed our courts going along with them. The court saying you haven't disproved it to the Home Office. In the old days, when I was an immigration officer, it was up to the passenger to satisfy the immigration officer, not the other way round. And apart from not knowing who these people are, the fact is that some of them, even if it wasn't all of them, some of them are dangerous threats, risks to our community, but particularly to our women. That is wrong.
Yeah.
And doing it in particular without any word from the local community as to whether or not they're in agreement, they would like this to happen.
Yeah.
It's wrong. It's wrong. It's wrong.
And it's dangerous, as you say. I mean, Edwina Curry, the Tory grandee, got into some trouble last week, but she was making a joke, but it sort of unveiled a kind of taboo. She said, well, if we're going to have these huge migrant camps in the middle of villages, 1,500 young men, she said, we're going to have to provide them with brothels. And she said, of course, that's not going to happen. Now, this is all a very unsavoury topic, but the truth is 1,500 young men will have needs. And those needs unserviced are going to create one hell of a problem and put the locals in danger, particularly the women and children.
Well, it's not just needs; it's actually desire.
Yeah, I was trying to sort of euphemistic.
They're young men, but in a way, what Edwina Curry said actually hit the nail on the head. And she didn't want to admit it, but these men are dangerous. They're a risk because they're here. They're after sex, and that's indeed what they're going to try and get. And it's a case of what's around and accessible, even if it's not available.
And these camps are cropping up all over the country, or proposals for them. There's a place called Bareham, RAF Centre in Norfolk has proposed to get a massive great camp as well. So this is all part of the government's spiteful campaign to dump migrants on middle-class communities. But I don't think they've thought this through. This is going to cause chaos, danger and disaster. It is a massive, massive accident waiting to happen. Let's hope the government rethink all of this, but I don't suppose they will.
Sorry, Kevin, but everything they do is effectively lighting the fuse.
Yeah.
It's not an accident waiting to happen. This is an accident that's already started.
You're absolutely right, Alp. Listen, we're going to go to break now. Alp's going to stay with us, and I've got another doozy for you. This is the comments of a French politician who actually I've got a lot of sympathy for. This is a nuanced story. He's demanding that we've paid the French about £1 billion in the last 3 years for them to not particularly patrol their beaches and watch the migrants walk past them and then take their voyages 21 miles to Britain, the promised land. He's saying that the French should get more money than what we've given them. We gave them about 600 million or so about 2 months ago. Shabana Mahmood handed them another 600 million. And this politician says for the way the British are handling this, they should give us more money. Now, before we get too outraged, I think he's got a point. We'll talk about this next. Stay tuned.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm still with the chairman of Migration Watch UK, Alp Mehmet. Alp, before we continue, we've had a voice note from Tristan. He always sends good voice notes, Tristan, and it is on the migrant crisis. Let's have a listen.
Yeah, it was quite a watershed moment. What was said this morning by that absolutely ridiculous and stupid Labour MP. But the thing is we thought that Starmer and Hermer were outliers in the Labour Party. Turns out, probably not. It's probably nearly all of them. All of them are absolutely bathed in suicidal empathy and bathed in this absolute ideology that we must give everything to migrants. And as I said, this morning was definitely a watershed moment. It really, really was.
Well, a good note there from Tristan. Yeah, it was a window into the psyche of our Labour government. They don't want to confront the truth of why we've got a migrant crisis. They want to invent their own stories of virtue signalling and helping waifs and strays and offering refuge to the people escaping from war and torture. All utter claptrap, but it suits their worldview. Now, Alp, let's talk about the French politician Xavier Bertrand. He has put the cat among the pigeons by demanding that Britain hands over more money and that France should rip up our agreement with the UK if the UK fails to deliver on deportations and smashing smuggling gangs. He's in a rage because he says we offer these people so many incentives that it's very difficult for the French to stop them getting onto small boats and coming across the channel. In other words, they're coming across the channel because they know they're going to get 50 quid a week benefits, free food, free accommodation, free dentists, free doctors, free lawyers, free driving lessons, and so on and so forth. He says, what can we do about this? So he is saying that if we really want the French to step up to the plate and actually start stopping migrants, then we're going to have to give them more money. I don't agree with that, but I do have some sympathy with his standpoint.
Well, we've always argued that the pull factor is massive, and all we do is add to it. You know, we increase the strength of the magnet, really, day by day. I agree with him on that. However, what he also overlooks is the fact that the French themselves have anything up to 1.2 million illegal migrants in France. They do absolutely nothing. In fact, they don't even check those entering the country. At least we look at them. But once these people have entered the EU, then the Schengen arrangement allows them to go to wherever they like. And there are millions of illegal migrants in the EU. All of them potentially could make their way to northwest France and come over. Now, what about the French actually doing something about that? What about the EU doing something about preventing those who are still coming in their tens of thousands every year? I'm afraid that I would listen a little more carefully and nod my head at Monsieur Bertrand if he actually looked to see what the EU and France are not doing as much as what we are.
You're absolutely, I mean, you're right. That's an extremely good point. But when Monsieur Bertrand, he's the regional president of Hauts-de-France, apparently. When he brands the UK, and I quote, a permanent attraction for migrants, he's got a point. We've got to do something about the ludicrous generosity with which we treat these people who break into our country illegally. We've got to stop this benefits, free stuff, free everything, and a virtual guarantee that you can stay here for the rest of your life. We have to send them a different message, don't we?
Well, the message is, if you come here illegally, you're not going to stay.
Quite.
If you arrive and we don't know who you are, well, I'm afraid there's no question of even considering you for entry. You're going back to where you came from. We're not going to do that. We really, instead of us sort of kowtowing to the French, I think it's about time that we showed a little bit more determination about what we intend to do. And what we intend to do bears no resemblance to what we need to do. And that's to deter, to stop people from coming, not to manage the problem. Everything that Mr. Burnham has said, what his predecessors said, what the Labour Party generally are saying is all about managing the problem.
Where are we going to put them? Where are we going to put them? Let's find new places to put them. Let's move them out of hotels, because hotels are quite expensive. No. Let's stop them coming altogether. Let's talk about Burnham. I mean, he, as I say, he's in Wolverhampton bus garage talking about bus fares and finding somewhere for homeless people to stay at Christmas. Both very nice ambitions. Great. Bring down the bus fares. Lovely. And how nice for homeless people to have somewhere to stay at Christmas. You know, why is he standing in a bus garage talking about this? Whereas he will not even discuss the small boats crisis, the cross-channel crisis. And I'm getting worried about this guy, because the nation is demanding that he gets a grip. This is the #1 issue that concerns Brits. That is the migrant crisis, and this guy won't even talk about it. It's worrying, isn't it?
It's more than worrying. It's really, I think, frightening, because there's no understanding, it seems to me, of what it's all leading to. And it's all very well to say, yeah, we'll stop. We won't give this and that to the migrants coming in. And we shouldn't, and it is a pull factor. But what I will say, Kevin, having been an immigration officer and worked overseas as a visa officer, it doesn't matter that you stop everything. I mean, what it will do is actually help the British taxpayer by not having to fork out, but it won't stop them coming unless you can show that if they arrive in this manner, or indeed arrive legally and then stay on illegally, that they will not stay. They will be removed or they will be returned. That's what I would like to hear from the government.
And do you suspect, as I do, that the reason, you know, the migrant crisis is solvable? There's no doubt about it. But you need a government with resolve. You know, President Trump in America, he solved their southern border migrant crisis literally in a week. He brought down the number of illegal migrants crossing that border in the south, between Texas, California, Arizona and Mexico, by 92% in 7 days. Now, I suspect that the reason our government doesn't get to grips, doesn't do anything like that, is because it essentially does not want to solve this migrant crisis. It does not have the resolve, and our Prime Minister thinks, like Sam Rushworth, that somehow or other we owe these people because of the horrors of the British Empire. This is Labour for you. They exist in their own imaginary world, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I'm afraid that's right. It's not just Labour, unfortunately. Let's remember where this all started.
Yeah, thank you to the Tories for the migrant crisis, yes.
Well, I think once it started getting out of hand, really, it seemed to me that the Tories lost an opportunity actually to do something about it. And then once it evolved and developed, then we had Labour coming in, and frankly, Labour were never ever going to solve this problem. And it's all specious rubbish, really, what they say. It's gaslighting in the extreme. As I started off by saying, what they're not doing is dealing with the problem. Yeah. And if they want to know how to deal with it, please, Mr. Burnham, get me into number 10 and I will tell you in 15 minutes how to solve the problem.
And here's the problem with that, is he won't want to listen to you. I believe, let me know what you think, but I believe that our Prime Minister does not want to solve the migrant crisis. I believe he doesn't really believe in sovereign borders. Well, he wants to keep letting them in.
That's all the evidence that we have. He, as mayor of
Manchester. Mayor of Brittany is now.
Manchester. I'm afraid that's all he did, was really make things a bit more comfortable, and it wasn't dealing with the problem insofar as he was deterring people. He was dealing with the problem by making migrants more comfortable, and indeed occasionally inviting them to go to Manchester.
Unbelievable. Listen, Alp, great to have you in the studio. Really good stuff. Thank you so much. Come in again soon.
Pleasure.
Alp Mehmet, Chairman of Migration Watch UK. Just a couple of massive migrant stories today, but this drama, this soap opera continues apace. And as Alp and I were just discussing, we have a Prime Minister and a government that they clearly do not want to stop the boats. They don't want to solve this crisis. Let me know what you think about that. I think it's a tragedy. 0344 499 1000. Back in a moment with more government insanity, this time about Nut Zero. And it's more rubbish from our friend Crazy Ed Miliband. That next. Stay tuned.
There's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language, and the other is that there is a black economy.
Sam, you're not telling me a majority of migrants who come to this country can speak English, are you?
A lot of them come because they feel they can work better in the English language than they can in many of the European languages.
Explain to me then why they don't bring their wives and children.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the net zero crisis, according to Ed Miliband. Now, when he was still ruining our economy as the Energy Secretary, he rejected an analytical report, which was basically a call for pragmatism, to be not quite so absolutist about our energy. And this was a proposal that we could power this country, fuel this country with 80% clean energy, but we would need some, traditional energy put into the mix, 20%. Now, this was, of course, instantly rejected by Crazy Ed because, of course, it doesn't fit into his worldview of saving the planet and all that. Had we have adopted this pragmatic proposal, this would have saved British families £540 a year, more than £10 a week. That is significant. And it boggles my mind that we have a government, we have a man like Miliband and by extension Starmer, Burnham, who are more interested in signalling their virtue about saving the planet and imposing draconian measures on the long-suffering British people than they are about the welfare of their citizens, the financial welfare of their citizens. Never mind you saving £540 a year. I've got to go to heaven. I've got to boast to other politicians what wonderful work I've done in saving the planet, even though nothing you can do in Britain is going to make any difference at all. It's extraordinary to me. Let's speak to a columnist at the Sun newspaper, a Spectator and the Mail, and author of Not Zero, Ross Clark. Ross, no surprise that Ed Miliband took one look at this report, this analytical report that could have saved every person in Britain £540 a year on their energy bills, and rejected it because he's got a planet to save. They don't care about us, do they? They just care about their own reputations and their own ideologies. Strange.
Yeah, well, what's happened today? So Claire Coutinho, who is the shadow energy secretary now, she was the real energy secretary in Rishi Sunak's government. She says when she became energy secretary 2023 that she looked at the evidence, looked at what evidence there was for the government, the then Conservative government's net zero strategy, and was rather disappointed to find there wasn't really any evidential basis for switching to renewables. So she instigated, well, let's have a proper analysis of what the costs will be, and we can come up with a reasoned decarbonisation strategy. And when Ed Miliband, obviously she was thrown out of office when the Tories lost the election, Ed Miliband took over her job, and he dumped this analysis, stopped it. But it has been completed now by the Conservative think tank Onward. And what Onward is saying is pretty much what a lot of us have been saying all along, is that Ed Miliband's plan to get to sort of 95% clean electricity by 2030. It was 100% clean energy by 2030, by the way. It was sort of subtly downgraded to 95%. I hope we wouldn't notice. They're saying that it's fantastically expensive to do that, because basically what you've got to do is build two parallel energy systems. You've got to have all those wind farms and solar farms, but because they don't generate electricity all the time, you have to have backup in the form of gas power. It's nearly on the scale that you do at the moment. So, I mean, part of Ed Miliband's plans, obviously he's moved on as Foreign Secretary now. We've got Miatta Farnwale as not quite the household name yet, but she's now doing his old job.
I think she will be. She will be.
She will be. And so you've got this of two parallel energy systems, which is fantastically expensive to run. So we'd have all these gas plants which only use 5% of the time. And a lot of the rest of the time, we'd have wind farms, solar farms generating electricity, which we couldn't feed into the grid because they'd be generating far too much electricity on sunny and windy days. So the cost, and what Onward proposes, well, let's have a rational system which does reduce carbon emissions, but not to 95%, by 95%, based on nuclear, gas, and a bit of wind. And they would say they calculated that would save the average household £540 a year by 2050.
Yeah. So the truth is, we got Burnham talking about, the carrying on the drive to clean energy. This has been proved because we've had a hot summer. There's been some wildfires. So we've got to get clean energy sorted out, according to our Prime Minister. Now, the truth is, this far more than I do, but this country can never be powered by wind and sun. It just can't be. We don't have enough wind, and we certainly don't have enough sunshine. So we're always going to need these backups. So this whole notion of 100% clean air, or even 95%, is for the birds. And yet our ideological government just continues down this false alley. And, to dredge up the basic point that I think enrages people, you want to get hold of Ed Miliband and ram him against the wall by his collars and go, look, come on, why can't you? It's not fair to the British people. You're imposing on us hair shirt policies that are costing us a damn fortune. And even if Britain got to the point where we're all living in mud huts, not driving cars and never getting on aeroplanes, so we're producing no carbon emissions whatsoever, won't make any difference because we only produce less than 1% of the world's pollution anyway. So nothing we can do will ever make any difference. And yet these ideologues want to make life difficult for us so they can look good on the political dinner party circuit. Meanwhile, over in China, they couldn't give a damn. They're selling us windmills and solar panels that they're building using coal-fueled power stations, of which they have 1,100, and they're building 300 more. We are being conned into believing that anything we can do will somehow help save the planet. Ed Miliband is a con man who sold us a lie.
Yeah, well, I mean, this is how silly it gets. The government ministers keep parroting this figure that they've reduced Britain's carbon emissions by 50% since 1990. And that sounds wonderful, doesn't it? And say, oh, we've reduced it by 50%, just a bit of a tidying up exercise to do the other 50% then, and we'll be net zero, hey presto. But actually, this target only consists of what's called a territorial emissions, which are those physically spewed out within Britain. They exclude all the emissions elsewhere in the world which are emitted in the cause of growing food, making products, providing services for UK consumers. And when you look at carbon emissions on what's called a consumption basis, where you do take that into consideration, we've only reduced carbon emissions by 15% since 1990. And so that gives you an idea of how much further you would really have to go. And of course, we've picked off all the low-hanging fruit. The other 85% would be vastly more difficult to eliminate. And
so we are meaninglessly in this country. We are meaninglessly. Constantly trying to cut back on the pollution we cause, as I say, hair shirt policies, costing us a fortune, when we're not even really involved in polluting the planet. We've done so much work on this score that we don't produce very much pollution at all, less than 1% of the world's carbon emissions. Meanwhile, you've got the big players. You've got, obviously, China, 28% of the world's pollution. You've got India, Russia, Brazil's a very big polluter. Australia is too. America, of course. These countries are doing next to nothing. Now, if they went hard and fast towards net zero, it might have an effect. But meanwhile, here in Britain, where nothing we can do will ever change anything, we are absolutely plunging further and further into net zero mania. I don't get it, Ross. I just don't.
Yeah, well, I mean, there's another interesting point that Onward are making. Is that even if you are in favour of, slashing carbon emissions, want to get to that 2050 target, the 2030 decarbonisation of the national grid target is actually standing in the way because it is driving up electricity prices so high that it's discouraging people from switching to electric heat pumps, electric cars and so on, which would actually help reduce.
I tell you, Ross, we are caught in a hamster wheel of insanity. We really, really are. Thank you very much, Mr. Miliband. Ross, brilliant to have you on the show. Thank you so much. Ross Clark there, columnist at The Sun. Next up, it is Isabel Oakeshott. We'll go through some of the big stories of the day. You don't want to miss that, so stay tuned. See you after.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
That, folks, was a powerhouse first hour, and it's going to be even better this next second hour. Lots still to come. In about 20 minutes or so, 25 minutes, we're going to do a couple of justice stories. Jail sex scandals, in other words, prison officers, female prison officers having affairs with male inmates. There's been a shocking rise in the number of those relationships. They've gone up by a third. The number of officers, prison wardens, disciplined or sacked for illicit relationships with inmates has tripled. So we'll talk about that. Mike Neville, former Met Police detective, will be on the show. He's got a solution. We'll talk to him about that. And then Mike will stay on, and we're going to talk about a story that you could file under strange but true. You couldn't make it up. I'm not joking. A bunch of coppers in Lancashire have there's this village where they've got a speeding problem. They've got a speed trap area, and the villagers want to know how can they discourage cars zooming through this speed trap where at least one local kid has been killed. The police have invited or are planning to hold a workshop session where they will teach the villagers, this is true, how to make scarecrows. They've got the straw and everything, and then they've got the outfits. So they dress up the scarecrows to look like speed traffic cops, you know, with a camera. This is serious. That's what they're doing with your taxpayers' money. A scarecrow-making session, workshop, hosted by coppers to deal with a local speeding problem. I mean, it's imaginative, but it's also insane, isn't it? We'll talk about that in just a little while. Isabel Oakeshott, our brilliant international editor, is just waiting. But before we go to Isabel, a couple of voice notes. This is from Eddie on the migrant crisis.
Could we use these old like ex-RAF bases and things and pump loads of money into them to use to train up like new British soldiers and recruits, and then they could go and protect the borders? I mean, it's a stupid idea, probably. I'm sorry I actually come up with it.
You mean use RAF and army camps for troops, for soldiers and air pilots and airmen and that kind of thing? That's an unusual idea. Because the only reason we have army camps and RAF bases now is to put migrants in. So the use of those establishments has changed. But good idea, Eddie. This is Bridget again on the migrant crisis.
Regarding that Labour numpty MP saying that all the immigrants can speak English because of colonisation and that's why they're all going to the UK, well, why then, Kev, is the British taxpayer paying millions per year on translators, for example, for the NHS, for doctors and dentists, and more dangerously when they're convicted of crimes and they need these people, translators, to help them when they're in court? If they can speak English, why do they need translators? And why is it costing so much money?
What a brilliant point from Bridget. I wish I had made that point. It's exactly right. Our translation bill for migrants and asylum seekers annually is astronomical. Certainly in the justice system, the health system, translators have to be everywhere. Because these people, contrary to what Sam Rushworth, Labour MP, says, they can't speak a word of English. That is the true nature of the problem, as opposed to Sam Rushworth's imaginary nature of the problem. Let's go over now to our international editor, the excellent Isabel Oakeshott. Hi, Isabel.
Good afternoon. Well, as you know, this is one of my favourite topics and continually trying to hammer home the point that most people on these boats, they couldn't really speak a sentence in English.
Yeah, they can barely say hello, can they? They can barely say hello. This is absolute nonsense. But I'm going to play you two clips. I know that Jeremy Kyle earlier today played you Sam Rushworth, the Labour MP. I'm going to raise you one Sam Rushworth quote from a week ago on Breakfast when Ian Collins was hosting it, which proves that Sam Rushworth really shouldn't be let out on the media rounds. He's not really up to the job. But here's what he said to Jez this morning on Talk Breakfast.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors, and I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language, and the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
And the other reason is we give them 50 quid a week. We give them free accommodation in 4-star hotels. We give them free lawyers, free dentists, free doctors, free driving lessons, free everything. That's the other reason. That's a pull factor, Sam. Now, Sam was on Breakfast a week ago. And he came up with a great point about the new mega dinghies. Here he is talking to Ian Collins.
This boat that's just come across is really shocking and worrying. It's the biggest ever. But you know what? The second biggest ever was in July 2023, when 165 people came on a single boat. Now, who was in charge at the time? Well, Suella Braverman was the Home Secretary. Robert Jenrick was the Immigration Minister. Both of those are now Reform MPs. And Chris Philps was the Crime and Policing Minister at that point. And these are three people who've taken to the media in recent days, making out like there's some magic wand that you can wave at these problems and they just go away. If it were that simple, why did they do nothing when the Reform and Conservative MPs were running our country and were overseeing this crisis at its absolute height?
Yeah, nice point, Sam. The thing is, that mega dinghy with 165 people on board didn't come over in July 2023. It came over 3 weeks ago. This guy, they should lock him up, don't let him back on the airwaves. But that point about migrants, the big pull factor is they can all speak English, is just a lie. It's absolutely not true. Hardly any of them can speak a word of English.
It's born out of ignorance, Kev, because our politicians don't want to put in the hard yards that are involved in actually understanding who is coming over to our country. They just, I don't think they want to know, because it really isn't that difficult. You know, I've got a very long way in trying to work this out, along with my colleague Christian Drogan, just by spending time in Dunkirk, in Calais, actually talking to people. I don't think these politicians want to get their hands dirty. I think they're afraid of what it might reveal. And so they are basing policy on complete and utter ignorance. And that is so dangerous. It's so negligent. And this is why this just continues. They still are labouring under the misapprehension that most of these people are fleeing war and terror or actually have skills to offer our country.
And they're nearly all women and children.
I mean, this is just what it is, and it is actually unforgivable. It is ignorance, and that is unforgivable. You know, they've been in power for several years now. There's no excuse either for those that preceded them for the ignorance that they displayed on this problem. It's long past the time to actually grasp the fundamentals of what we are dealing with here. The people traffickers are simply responding to a vibrant market.
Yeah.
And it's
supply and demand, isn't it? Supply and demand.
Rational market. You know, there's a great prize here in the UK for people that can make it over. And so the people smugglers are meeting that need. This racket is not the fault of the people smugglers. It's the fault of governments on either side of the channel.
Yeah, I agree with you that Labour politicians, the cabinet, people like Sam Rushworth don't bother to actually look into the realities of the migrant crisis. But what we're talking about here, what they're doing here, what Sam does, what cabinet secretaries do, what I think our Prime Minister does, is they've created their own narrative around the migrant crisis that fits nicely into their worldview. These are not young male chancers trying to cash in on Britain's economy, according to Labour MPs. That's what they actually are, nearly all of them. They're just young male chancers. But according to Labour politicians, they are waifs and strays escaping war and torture, even though there's no war and torture in France, and who we owe refuge to because we invaded their countries in the British Empire in the imperial years. It's pathetic, isn't it?
I mean, a lot of these people do come from, ultimately, from their countries of ultimate origin are countries where there are pretty awful things happening. You know, this is in Sudan, there's a civil war going on there. A lot of them have come from Afghanistan. Syria is another big one. But the idea that they've hot-footed it over from those countries, you know, in at some speed and got themselves to Calais to get to Britain, that isn't the case at all. A lot of these journeys have taken years. You know, they have been through multiple countries on their way to end up for the last sort of 20 miles of the journey. That is just the sort of very tail end of journeys that began in many cases years earlier. And so that then comes down to the pull factor, because as you said, you know, they've come through multiple countries that are not at war. You know, we've spoken to people that actually lived in some of these other countries for considerable periods of time before coming to the UK and then claiming that they're fleeing war and terror, even though they long ago fled to, I don't know, Germany, Belgium, France. A lot of them have been living in France for quite a while. Their decision to come to the UK, to try to come to the UK, is totally rational. I don't blame them. You know, if I was from Eritrea and I had the wherewithal and this glittering prize that awaited me, I would 100% give it a go. We have got to shut down the market for it. Not smashing the gangs, as we all know now,
Didn't work.
Isn't going to work when there is still a market.
Exactly right. Supply and demand. As I always say, you know, they go, smash the gangs, we're going to arrest all the people smugglers. Stick every single people smuggler in jail tonight, and by tomorrow morning there'll be a whole new set of people smugglers to replace them, because there's a business going on here, supply and demand. As long as there is a demand, there will be people smugglers to deliver the supply. Now, don't worry, though, Isabel, because Andy Burnham is on the case. He's made a very important speech about the migrant crisis. Oh, no, hang on. No, he has made an important speech. It's not about the migrant crisis. It's not about the #1 issue concerning British citizens. Here he is. It's a different subject.
This is the right thing to do. I feel very passionately about this. I spoke in Downing Street when I came into office about putting a care for people at the heart of everything that we do, and that can't be done if you've got people who've just got nowhere to go and are left sleeping in the streets. In this country, I don't think in this day and age anybody should be forced to sleep rough.
Well, yesterday he was in Wolverhampton bus garage talking about getting cheaper fares for disabled people before 9:30 a.m. Yeah, nice, good. Today he's talking about finding rough sleepers, homeless people, somewhere to stay at Christmas. Nice, yeah, I hope that works out. Hardly really dealing with the big issues of our time. This guy's not at the races, is he?
It really doesn't seem to me. You actually you took me by a bit of surprise there. Like he's made a big speech on immigration on the.
That'll be the day in our dreams.
Wow, how come I didn't hear about that? That sounds like actually important, albeit extremely belated, because he's now been in power for a few weeks, and I think it needed to be addressed on day one. It really did. I mean, he's doing nice little bits of tinkering, isn't he? Like fine, as if he could afford to sort of fine-tune a beautiful sports car that was already all lovely and, you know, ready to win races. Britain isn't like that. It doesn't just need a little bit of tweaking here and there. It needs fundamental, radical reform. And it's a shame he's got an opportunity to do some of this stuff. I know he's made some big announcements about care for the elderly, although it's still just at the stage of, you know, speeding up reviews and some cross-party talks. I know he has got big dreams on that front, but the whole buses thing, you know, disabled extra good. These are good things. I'm not saying I don't.
I'm
want
not against them, but they're just sort of they're sideshows. They're not at the centre of the equation, and this seems to be this guy's style. You know, the nation is crying out for him to solve the migrant crisis, to stop the boats. He doesn't even want to talk about it. He wants to go to Wolverhampton bus garage and talk about bus fares. It's deflective and it's weird, and I'm beginning to fear that this is not just delayed action on the part of a Prime Minister who's finding his feet. I'm beginning to fear this guy hasn't got a clue.
It might be as good as it gets.
Yeah.
You know, this actually might be it. You know, there might just be a bunch of stuff along.
That's what I fear. That's what I fear.
Well, that would be very bad news indeed. But the thing is that, you know, when you first come into office, that is your moment of maximum political capital, as they say. You'd have thought that was your moment to talk about the really big things, even if they're really, really difficult things. And he's done some of that, although it's pretty vague, all about reindustrialisation and reinvigoration of the North and growth in every postcode, whatever else. But still nothing on the catastrophic continuation of illegal immigration, and still nothing serious on the welfare state.
No, exactly right. We've got a story today. So what he's doing, or what the government is doing in terms of the migrant crisis, it does seem to be really pushing through hard on this plan to punish the middle classes by sticking migrants in the middle of their communities. So we've got all these proposed massive migrant centres next to villages like Piddington. There's another one up in Norfolk. There's all sorts of proposals for these huge plans. And one of them, which would make it the biggest migrant camp in all of Britain, 1,500 young male migrants are proposed for a massive asylum seeker accommodation centre in the North Yorkshire village of Linton on Ouse. Well, it's emerged today that if we put 1,500 in there, that every single one of these migrants, these young foreign men, will cost us, long-suffering British taxpayers, £500 a night each. Right, that adds up. That adds up to. I was just going to give you the sums. That adds up to £750,000 a night. That's £750,000 every single night. 5.25 million a week and £274 million a year. That's just one camp. It's off the scale. It is bizarre that they don't see that this is an emergency. They've got to do something about this.
I don't get it. I don't get it. You know, very few weeks now left before autumn sets in. We're then going to have a run up to a budget and just stand by for lots of turf rolling, as they call it, rolling the pitch, as they call it in Whitehall, to try to prepare us all for yet another hammering. Those that still actually work and pay their way and get up in the morning, our listeners, our viewers, are going to be prepared for yet another clobbering in order, partially, to pay for this kind of thing. It is completely and utterly bonkers, as we continually tell ourselves, Kevin. You know, sometimes I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Well, there's only one explanation. I had Alt Mehmet in the studio earlier from Migration Watch UK, excellent organisation. And we both agree. As you say, Isabel, you look at the facts of the migrant crisis and you think, what is the reason that our government's doing nothing about it? What is the reason that we have a Prime Minister presiding over this shambles and he doesn't want to talk about it? The only reason we concluded is that he doesn't want to solve this crisis, that this government wants to keep letting small boat migrants into the country illegally, that their heart is not in solving this crisis.
Well, if the agenda is to try to get votes for the future, I mean, it would worry me really, because these people have no idea about the UK. I mean, this is another thing. They have a rough idea that they're coming to something a lot better, and they're not wrong about that. But the idea that they would be able to have any notion whatsoever, I'm talking about on average, I'm sure there will be a very small number of educated ones, like tiny, because if you're that educated, you've got a better job and you don't have to get into a boat.
Yeah.
They won't know what political party is what any of it means. So I just think there's so much misconception around this.
Yeah, I think if it's sort of spacemen, aliens landed on planet Britain right now, they'd look around and think, what the hell is going on? Because it's completely confusing. This government droning on about bus fares and Christmas homeless people, and when we've got some serious issues that need tackling, and yet they won't do it. Very bizarre. Isabel, fantastic to have you on the show as always. Thank you so much. Let's move on, shall we? After the break, I'm going to be talking to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Sex scandals in prison, the number of sex scandals in prison, female prison officers having affairs with inmates has tripled. We've got a serious crisis here. Mike Neville has got the solution. So we'll talk about that next. Also, I'm going to get Mike about this bizarre plan in the village of Alton in Lancashire, where they've got a speeding road problem, and the local cops are proposing a workshop. They're going to teach the locals how to make scarecrows and then dress them up like speed camera cops. That's what the police are going to do. You couldn't make this stuff up. So, Mike Neville, next, two fascinating stories, so stay exactly where you are.
It is therefore my honour to declare that the duly elected leader of the Labour Party is Andy Burnham.
Thank you, everybody. Thanks so much. I believe in all of you, and I am confident we can do it. Thank you very much. I have just come from Buckingham Palace, where I have accepted His Majesty the King's invitation to form a government. I know people at home are fed up with politics. I hear you, and I want to be honest with you. We have not been good enough, and we need to be better. We will be.
This man has no mandate whatsoever. He didn't stand on the 2024 general election.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. There have been calls for better training and recruitment after a report has found that the number of prison officers disciplined or sacked for illicit relationships with inmates, so we're talking about female prison officers, has nearly tripled. As prisoners, experienced prisoners, veteran jailbirds apparently are targeting inexperienced staff. So what can we do about this? Let's talk to former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. Hi, Mike.
Good evening, Kevin.
Well, what can we do about it? I mean, you've got a very good, simple suggestion. So what we've got is, you see it in the papers day after day after day, these female prison officers, either sacked or in the dock, because it's what they're doing is against the law, for forming passionate affairs, relationships with male inmates. As I say, there are calls for better recruitment, better staff training, but you have got a simpler solution. What is it, Mike?
Well, the simple solution, Kevin, is easy, isn't it? You employ men in men's prisons and women in women's prisons. You know, when you get to a point where you've got to teach prison officers that they've not got to have sex with inmates, it will come along. This is what they do, though, in the training. This is the insanity of it. And you also have this mega young workforce where you have the ridiculous situation that 18-year-old girls can be employed as prison officers looking after in a prison where there's only 21-year-old men. So, and we're dealing with very violent and manipulative characters here, who will set these prisoners prison officers up. So, 2 or 3 of them will pick on the girl, and then another one will say, "Oh no, I'll look after you," and then they manipulate it and turn it around, because these are characters who are drug dealers, who are violent gangsters, who want to have mobile phones and drugs and all sorts of other illicit things smuggled in.
Yeah.
And so what you've got here is a choice, really, Kevin. You can have equal opportunities, and this is why it was brought in, or you can have operational effectiveness. And I think throughout the world, the Western world, equal opportunities has triumphed over operational effectiveness. Now, I don't think me or you, my wife and my daughter are nurses. Have you any objection to 90-odd% of nurses being women? I have no objection whatsoever.
Of course not. Of course not.
I'd rather have a female nurse than a bloke treating me, to be honest, because women are, in my view, much more, in general, much more caring. But this is, it's gone on and on, this, and we see it, as you see, every week you see the same looking girl, they all look the same, who are having sex with inmates and absolutely causing trouble in the prisons. And the simple solution is men in men's prison, women in women.
I think they've got to think about this. So there's a litany of young female prison officers who've actually gone to jail. Someone called Isabel Dale, she was jailed for 3.5 years after having a romantic relationship with
Kevin, the worst is Linda Abreu, who was filmed. She was filmed in Wandsworth Prison having sex with one of the inmates.
Linda D'Souza Abreu, she was caught on camera having sex at Wandsworth. There's another one called Sarah Williams, inappropriate relationships with 3 prisoners. I mean, they can move from one to the other. With links to serious organised crime. She went to jail for 18 months. But the point about this is these are pretty young women, as you say, and they are being manipulated by wily prisoners, into, it's a romantic affair, I love you, let's have sex, let's go to the broom cupboard, all that. But what these lags really want is to suck these people into a relationship and then say, can you bring me in some drugs? Can you bring me in contraband? So these girls, these women, prison officers, end up bringing in illegal contraband for their lovers, and that's a very serious offence. So the whole thing all revolves around sex, young women, as you say, probably being in the wrong place. Why can't we do that? Why? It just always struck me as a bit bizarre that we have all these, shall we say, quite attractive, nubile young women marching around prisons for men. And in these prisons, by the way, there are sex offenders. We ought to think about this, oughtn't we?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've got a good friend, who's like, was the stereotypical prison officer in the sense he'd been in the parachute regiment, joined the prison service. And when he joined, they were told, some women come into the male prison, but there'll be 1 woman for every 7 male officers. And that deal was never maintained. We now have half and half. And again, you're dealing with very violent men who have to be, in some cases, subdued. These are all common sense issues that have been lost along the way. And as I say, the key focus has been for 2 or 3 generations, everybody has a chance, everybody's got to be able to do everything. Well, look with me in the rugby team. I would love to be the scrum half, but I'm designed to be the prop forward. That is me, and I accept the cards in life that I have been dealt. But too many people don't know. It's like, I should be this and I should be that. But sometimes life is not fair. We've got to, the main focus of the prison is to lock up prisoners and keep them in a place where they cannot smuggle things in, they cannot get illicit information in, they cannot have sex with the guards. And that means men for men, women for women.
Well, I think it's a very simple solution, but a very good one. Listen, Mike, while I've got you, this is literally has just broken. Major story, I think. It's got legal ramifications, so I'll get your take on it. This is breaking in the Sun newspaper, literally over the last 2-3 minutes. Asylum seekers arriving in the UK are being handed booklets warning them that sex with children is illegal and that men and women are equal under UK law. The 9-page document published by the Home Office tells migrants that they understand laws and customs here may be different from your home country. Under one page headed Gender Equality, arrivals are told that women can work, study and travel freely without needing permission from a man in the UK. Another page on domestic abuse warns that you could be arrested or go to prison if you carry out physical or emotional attacks on their partner. So basic stuff, but now we are clearly here. The Home Office is accepting that we are allowing into the country potential paedophiles and rapists who they feel they have to inform it is wrong to have sex with children. It is wrong to force yourself sexually on women. That is the nature of the people we're letting into the country, people who don't understand that. If we have to hand them out these leaflets, they shouldn't be let in the first place, should they?
Absolutely. And I remember that dreadful interview with the ever-dreadful Hilary Benn, who would not accept about there are alien cultures. Well, there obviously are accepting now, the Home Office, that there are alien cultures that are coming to this nation with the views that you've quoted there and putting wives, daughters, whoever, at risk. And I've said this many times before, but having to escort my daughter through Bournemouth, the quintessential English seaside resort of old, escorting her through there because it wasn't safe, because there's 3 asylum hotels. I think when it hits people in their own life, you know, that's when people start to see how bad it has got. And as you say, the publishing of that leaflet, it just condemns people like Hilary Benn, who like to pretend that the world is somehow a wonderful multicultural world where everybody is the same and behaves in the same way.
Exactly right. This cuts right to the heart of the difference, the shocking difference in the cultures of these young men who break into Britain and our culture. Let me ask the audience, give me a call, let me know what you think about this. It beggars belief, doesn't it? These asylum seekers, folks, that we're laying into the country are now being handed booklets warning them that sex with children is illegal. Implicit in that is the fact they don't know that. They think sex with children is OK. Also, they're being warned on a domestic abuse page, Gender Equality, that when you come to this country, you should know that if it's your wife, you're not allowed to beat them up. That's illegal in this country. Physical or emotional attacks on your partner are illegal. So this is the schism, the massive difference between the countries and the cultures that these young men are coming from and the place they arrived in Britain. And frankly, Mike, if I encountered someone who needs to be told that sex with children is illegal, I wouldn't let them into the country in the first place, would you?
Absolutely. It's like letting them into your own home, isn't it? That, you know, we wouldn't let them into our home to be dangerous to our families, and the government, their first priority should be looking after the citizens. But it's not. They have a fantasy. The left have a fantasy. They have this dream of this multicultural society. They have this belief that everybody coming to this country is some refugee fleeing war. The fact they never bring their wife or daughter with them is another issue, really. But they believe all these things, and we've got to get into their heads, really, and see where they're coming from. But somehow we've got to stop this because women and girls are at risk at the moment.
Yeah, I'd just say, do you understand that sex with children is illegal in this country? If they said no, it's like, well, you can't come in then. Instead, we're handing them out a handy booklet, a guide on, you know, how to obey our extraordinary laws where paedophilia is illegal and you can't beat your wife up. A real learning curve for these migrants. My God. It's pathetic, isn't it? Listen, Mike, you're going to stick with us. We're going to go to break now. And I guess from the sublime to the ridiculous, we're going to talk about almost a comic story about about coppers in Lancashire teaching villagers how to make scarecrows. You better stay tuned for the details.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Get your calls in about that extraordinary story being broken right now by the Sun newspaper. The disturbing guide booklet now being handed out to illegal migrants when they arrive in this country, when they break into this country. It's basically a how not to rape women and children guide, pointing out to them that in this country, in Britain, we find that having sex with children is illegal. It's against the law. You ought to know this. Oh, by the way, you come with your wife. You'll be shocked to learn that you're not actually allowed to beat her up in this country. That, too, is against the law. Here's that. This is the booklet that they're being handed. Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK. A guide for asylum seekers. I say, if we have to point out to these people, oh, look, FYI, you should know this. You probably don't know this, but in this country, having sex with children is illegal. Anyone you have to point that out to should not be allowed into the country in a month of Sundays, should they? Anyone you have to say, look, actually, in this country, you're not allowed to beat your wife up. Don't let them in. This is ridiculous and sinister and disturbing. Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK. A real shocking indictment of the difference in the cultures these young men are coming from. The countries and the cultures they come from. They don't respect women, they don't respect children. They come here and we've decided we'll just give them a pamphlet to tell them about our laws. Well, if they don't know that you shouldn't rape children, then they should not be allowed in this country. Don't you agree? 0344 499 1000. Let's play a voice note from Carl. This is on Andy Burnham.
Our leader, handy for us. He's one of us. What a guy. Now he's sorting out the homeless problem. He's sorting all these things out, but they always seem to be in 6 months' time. I'm going to sort it by next April. I'll sort it by September. I'll sort it next September. I'll sort it by Christmas. And the homeless thing isn't going to be a permanent thing anyway. He's just talking about him not being homeless over Christmas. Be back on the streets again in January. The guy's a proper chancer.
Exactly right. I mean, he's literally today. It's 1 day before the 1 month anniversary of him waltzing into 10 Downing Street unhindered by democracy. And what's he done? Nothing. You know, he's set up this ludicrous number 10 North that nobody knows what it's for, except it's going to cost them a lot of money. That's it. Apart from that, he's made a lot of feel-good speeches. Yeah, we're going to make nobody be homeless at Christmas, lower bus fares, lots and lots of mayors. But he hasn't actually done anything. I mean, I don't particularly want him to do any of that stuff, but he hasn't done them. He's just made speeches. So in a month, this guy has achieved the square root of damn all, right? 03444991000. Still with former Met Police Detective Mike Neville. A change of tone now, Mike. This is extraordinary. The police in the village of Alton in Lancashire, they've got a real speeding problem as a sort of speed trap where a lot of cars go way too fast. Apparently kids in the area use it as a kind of racetrack. A couple of years ago, one teenager crashed into a wall and a kid in his car was killed. So it's a lethal speeding area. So the villagers have turned to the police and say, what can we do to slow down these cars? And this is true. This is true. The police have let the locals know, we've got the straw, we've got the outfits, and we're inviting you to a workshop to teach you how to make scarecrows and then dress them up as traffic speed cops with a speed camera. Put them beside the road, motorists see that, they slow down. So the police are offering a workshop to show villagers how to make scarecrows. I mean, in the annals of You Couldn't Make It Up, that one ranks high, doesn't it? Really bizarre.
Well, as a Lancastrian, it makes me, outraged, really, that the police would do such a stupid thing. Because what strikes me, Kevin, is that surely they would be better off saying, right, we're going to train some villagers. We've not got enough officers. We haven't got enough officers, so we're going to train some volunteers who can stand here with a real speed gun and zap people and report the facts. They could put one of those signs up that says, smiley face, you're above 40 miles an hour or whatever else is done. And how much would that cost Lancashire County Council? Yet what they're doing is going down these sort of stupid ways that just going to bring ridicule upon themselves. When if they've got time to train somebody to make a scarecrow, they've got time to train them to say, this is your speed gun, point it this way. So they could make use of those. I had in the police, I had a team of volunteers who watched CCTV, created images of suspects and won all sorts of awards because they caught some violent and wicked and sexual criminals. And volunteers are a great thing. And they could use these people much smarter than doing this stupid trick.
Well, they put on social media that this is the cops. They've sourced the straw and the timber, but they needed a community effort to bring this plan into reality. So they've asked at this scarecrow constructing workshop for locals to bring bright clothing, cardboard and paint for signs so they can dress the scarecrows up like traffic cops with speed cameras. I mean, I suppose it's imaginative, but it's just ridiculous, isn't it?
Well, good day out for the kids, I suppose. If you're going to do it for the kids. But as I say, these volunteers, they seem like dedicated people. They could be used in a smarter and better way to reduce this problem. But the police, they just don't use volunteers enough, and this is where they've ended up with scarecrows. Wurzel Gummidge, for those who are old enough. That's
basically right. This is a Facebook post from Ormskirk and rural West Lancashire Police said that if you do go to the scarecrow constructing workshop, tea, coffee and biscuits will be provided as a thank you to all the community. I mean, I suppose it's showing some imagination, but somehow or other I just can't help feeling that there are better ways for cops to spend our taxpayers' money than teaching locals how to make scarecrows.
Yeah, well, as I've said, there are very simple solutions to this where people can be used in a much smarter way. Most people want to help. Most people want to make their communities safe. And volunteering in policing, there are some excellent people who do all sorts of jobs which remove, the burden from police officers, whether it's, filing paperwork or watching CCTV or running the station office. I always found they did it really well. So best at Lancashire Police, use these volunteers in a better way.
Yeah. I've got, stay where you are, Mike. We've got a voice note from Joe on our scarecrows. Take it away, Joe.
Kevin, I think you're missing something with this idea about scarecrows. How about we all make our own scarecrows, stick them in an army uniform, and we pop them on all our beaches, thousands, hundreds of thousands of them. Maybe it'll stop the boats. Better idea than any of the government have had.
I think Joe's right. That is a good idea. Yeah. So we have millions of scarecrows all over the country. You know, dressed up as soldiers on the beaches. It's a good idea from Joe, don't you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's get to a workshop now, Kevin, and start stuffing the straw. I'll dig out my old combat jacket, and you can fill it full of straw.
Okay, mate. I'll see you at the scarecrow constructing workshop. Can't wait. Thanks, Mike. The excellent Mike Neville, former Met Police detective. Yeah, I don't actually sort of pour too much scorn over that plan. It's just that isn't really, you know, coppers cost us money, right? So every copper is funded, if you like, by us, British taxpayers. So everything you see the police doing is how they are spending our taxpayers' money, right? So I never imagined that coppers would spend our taxpayers' money by hosting scarecrow constructing workshops. Seems a bit weird to me, doesn't it, you? 0344 499 1000. We're going to go to break now. When we come back, we'll be joined by Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer. I want to talk to him about this Prime Minister of ours, well, it's his boss, I guess, just not seeming to be at the races. All these crises engulfing the nation. And he's standing in Wolverhampton bus garage talking about bus fares and homeless people at Christmas. Quinton Letts in the Daily Mail has got a very powerful piece about this Prime Minister who doesn't really seem to be where it's at, doesn't seem to be at the races, doesn't seem to be across the issues, the crises that are really worrying the people of this country. We'll talk about our strange-seeming Prime Minister next. Stay tuned.
Zia Youssef is one very, very popular amongst the base, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons he is popular is because he speaks from the hip. He speaks in a language and with an attitude that is shared in pubs up and down the country, but not necessarily in Westminster seminars.
Do you think he gets away with being a loose cannon, whereas Tim Montgomery doesn't? Tim Montgomery gets suspended, Zia Youssef gets hugged closer.
There's a big difference. Tim is an ordinary party member. He is not a spokesperson. He is not an elected member. He's not on the board. He literally has no role in the party.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
We'll go over to Graham Stringer in just a second, but first a voice note from David on the Home Office booklet.
The fact you've got to tell these foreign doctors, dentists and architects that it's illegal to have sex with children in this country tells you one huge thing, that these foreign doctors, dentists and architects think it's normal to have sex with children. That really, really is showing us the depth of dregs we're sucking up and pumping around this great nation.
Exactly right. David's exactly right. I mean, if you've got to tell someone, by the way, just to let you know, FYI, in Britain it's illegal to rape children, you can imagine them going, really? God, thank God you told me. Well, anyone you've got to tell that clearly should not be allowed in the country. That's just basic, isn't it? Unbelievable. We'll talk about this a little later. But in the meantime, a warm welcome to the show. One of our favourite guests. He is the Labour MP for Blackley and Middleton South, Graham Stringer. Welcome, Graham.
Good evening.
I want to talk about the nature of our Prime Minister, Andy Burnham. Tomorrow he will have been in power. He'll have been our Prime Minister for a month. Quinton Letts has got a piece in the Daily Mail. OK, Daily Mail is never automatically going to be a Labour Prime Minister's best friend. But Quinton does point out some pretty good facts. Basically, in a month, in just less than a month, the only concrete thing that he's achieved is the establishment of Number 10 North, which most of us are still battling to try to work out what the hell it's all about. Apart from that, he's made a number of proposals, social care, devolution, and so forth. These are all proposals, speeches made, but nothing actually has happened. And we've got so many crises beginning to engulf this nation. I mean, one thing that isn't being made enough of is Putin is clearly gearing up, potentially for war with NATO. He's gathering his forces on the border with Poland. So we have the threat of World War III. We have the ongoing cost of living crisis. We have the economic crisis that this country is being sucked into. You know, servicing our national debt is costing us £3,500 a second. And we got a Prime Minister yesterday morning, he's in Wolverhampton bus garage telling us that he's going to make sure that disabled people get a better deal on their fares before 9:30 in the morning. Great. Today he's making a speech saying he's going to try to make sure that rough sleepers, homeless people have somewhere to stay on over Christmas. Well, lovely. But it's hardly getting to the heart of the matter. If a Prime Minister is defined by his first month, I'm afraid Andy Burnham doesn't come out of that test with flying colours. He looks like a man of nothingness who isn't at the races.
I don't think there's anything wrong with what he's been saying. They're all relatively good things. The most worrying thing, I think he said in the last few days, I think yesterday probably, was that he wanted to do popular things because that showed he was responding to what people wanted. Well, what people want to lower taxes.
Stop the boats. Stop the boats, Graham. I mean, he doesn't seem to want to talk about that.
Yeah, but it's worrying because prime ministers have to take decisions that people don't like because they have to make sure the country is not overly indebted. They have to make sure the country's safe in all the meanings of that. And I think I agree with you. He's not said enough about the major issues. He said we support Ukraine. Good, I support Ukraine. Most of the country supports Ukraine. But he said very little about Russia, said very little about the economy in serious terms, said next to nothing about the small and big boats coming across the channel. Those are the issues that people want resolved, and those, quite frankly, as a Labour MP, solving some of those issues is what's going to get Labour MPs elected at the next election. That's what, but they're tough choices.
I mean, I'll give him the benefit of the doubt right now because some people are slower than others. But in terms of beginning to at least give the impression that he's dealing with, he's tackling the issues that we're worried about, particularly the migrant crisis, he's got to get his skates on, hasn't he? He's got to start to prove to us he's interested in these issues that interest us.
Yes. I mean, I think the critical date, not particularly on the small and large boats crisis, but on everything, is the 28th of October, the date of the budget.
Budget, yeah.
So between now and then, I hope he makes some serious speeches or makes some serious statements on I'm not going to list all the big issues again, but on the big issues.
Yeah.
But if he doesn't, work together with John Healey, the Chancellor, indicate what he's, not more than indicate, tell the country what he's going to do on the 28th of October, then I think he will have begun to start failing, and I want him to succeed. I mean, the country should want him to succeed. I want all prime ministers, whatever party, to do the right thing by the country.
Yeah, me too, 100%. There's this criticism of him that he's like the mayor of Britain. And I think perhaps he ought to work on getting out of mayor mode. He's acting like he's the mayor of this country, and people are fearing that he's a bit parochial, you know, just talking about bus fares and homeless rough sleepers and all that. These are, you know, like, don't get me wrong, I think it's great to get rough sleepers off of the streets at Christmas, and bus fares coming down, better deals for disabled people, all very good. But it's all a bit parochial, isn't it? Now, Keir Starmer, by his first month, have been halfway around the world. Andy Burnham's been to Wolverhampton bus garage. He's got to come across more of, I think, of a British Prime Minister who isn't as obsessively local as he seems so far.
I think he has only concentrated, really, on small but important issues. I've got one worry I told you about, him saying you wanted to be popular because that shows you're doing the right things. It doesn't necessarily show you doing the right thing. It might show you avoiding difficult issues. One of the problems with Keir Starmer, I thought, as a Labour MP, that in opposition, we'd had long enough in opposition, too long, unfortunately, we would have thought out policies. But over the first 4 or 5 months, in fact, throughout the 2 years Keir was Prime Minister, there was review after review. Let's think about this. I hope Andy isn't going down that path of saying, well, we've got to think about this, we don't know quite what to do. But there is no sign that he's thought these things through and thought the contradictions that appear to be coming out. I believe in decentralisation, but if you're going to decentralise, you've got to accept that policies in Wolverhampton are going to probably be different than policies in Taunton.
Good point. Yeah.
And he's saying that, well, we're going to have the one planning system in the country, we're going to do this. And I just get the sense that a lot of these policies haven't been bottomed, not thought through in detail where power is going to lie. The other thing is, and I say this as having been leader of Manchester City Council and been an elected representative for a long time, things have gone well in Manchester. I think we've done good things. But if you're going to decentralise, you have to accept that not all local politicians are very good. Some are appalling, some are excellent.
Say that again.
So,
Graham,
there's going to be different policies.
There will be. Graham, good to have you on the show. Graham Stringer there. When we come back, Nick Fletcher, former Conservative MP, with all the big stories of the day. See you after the news.
across the UK. On DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Samara Gill, Talk's ace reporter, will join me in a little while to discuss this extraordinary new booklet, this pamphlet here that's being handed out to migrants as they arrive, illegal migrants as they arrive in this country. It's from the Home Office. It's called Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK. It provides vital information to these illegal migrants that, you know, there are nuances about life in Britain. You know, for example, raping children we deem to be illegal. So these people have to be told that sex with children is illegal. We also have to inform them that if they're married, they've got their wife with them, you know, you're not allowed by law to knock them about. It's illegal to beat your partner up. All these shocking facts for our migrant friends to be consumed as they arrive in this country. As I keep saying, get on the phone, let me know what you think. But if you have to tell someone, listen, FYI, if you're planning to have sex with children in this country, it's illegal. If you have to tell them that sex with children is illegal because they come from a culture where they don't think it's all that illegal, we shouldn't let them in. End of story, don't you think? Samara Gill will join me to discuss that in just a little while. Also, we're going to deal with the story of the, if you like, the Battle of the Blondes in the White House. And Melania is apparently increasingly upset about talk of a close relationship between Donald Trump and his glamorous personal assistant, presidential executive assistant, Natalie Harp. And there is sexist talk that Caroline Leavitt, the White House press secretary, has quit because Natalie Harp is winning the battle for the president's favour. I think that's probably very sexist and not fair. But there's something going on here. There's quite an all-American drama going on in the White House concerning these two women and the president. And Melania is not at all happy. We'll talk about that, or both those stories, in a little while. But in the meantime, let's go over to my next guest. We'll go through some of the big stories of the day with former Conservative MP Nick Fletcher. Welcome, Nick.
Hello there. Hope you're well.
Good. Good to have you on the show, as always. Let me play you, first of all, what the Labour MP for Bishop Auckland, Sam Rushworth, told our breakfast host, Jeremy Kyle, this morning on Talk. Have a listen to this.
I think what we do need to look at is what are the pull factors. And I think there's two big pull factors. One is that they speak the English language, you know, because we spent a couple of centuries going around the world colonising it and teaching everyone our language.
There's the reason that the Labour Party will forever allow people to come to this country.
They've got a network of people that speak our language. And the other is that there is a black economy, and we need to deal with the black economy.
First of all, let's deal with the real pull factors. The real pull factors for these migrants is, first of all, when they get here, instead of being prosecuted or returned to where they came from, which is what we should do, we treat them like visiting dignitaries. We give them 50 quid a week benefits, we put them in 4-star hotels, we give them free food, free doctors, free dentists, free lawyers, free driving licences, and the list goes on. Those are the pull factors, and of course the biggest pull factor is they pretty much know that once they illegally break into this country, we will let them stay forever. So those are the pull factors. But this bozo, Sam Rushworth, says the real pull factor is because of the evil British Empire. We went round invading all these countries and teaching these noble peasants how to speak British, how to speak English. And so the pull factor is they all speak English. That's why they want to come here. The truth is, Nick, virtually none of them speak a word of English. This is the kind of virtue signalling narrative that idiots like Sam Rushworth create around our migrant crisis. It's totally false, but it fits in with their worldview that we are providing refuge to these poor waifs and strays whose countries we despicably invaded during the British Empire. It's pathetic, isn't it?
It is, and I cannot understand why so many people that have been elected to represent their constituents in this country appear to hate our country and our history so much. And what I also can't understand is why they do get elected. I mean, we all know that the left think like this. Huge quantities of the left think like what they do, and yet people still put a cross in those on those voting slips, and I just cannot understand it. And the biggest problem that we've got with the migrants coming in, the number one pull factor, I believe, is that nobody's actually there stopping them. I mean, we've literally got an ocean between us and France, and nobody is stopping them. And that is the reason why they keep on coming. If we stop them, they wouldn't come. And it's as simple as that. But there you go. Until we get rid of these clowns that are leading us, I'm afraid it's going to continue, and they will keep on crossing the English Channel in their huge boats. They're getting bigger and bigger, and the problem's getting worse and worse.
Yeah, and he went on to repeat that other falsity, that the substantial numbers of these migrants coming across the Channel illegally on increasingly big boats are women and children. Do you remember that dork Darren Jones, who used to be Keir Starmer's sidekick, going on to Question Time a few months back and saying that the majority of these migrants coming across the Channel are women and children? I mean, that's...
Where are they looking? Where are they looking?
Well,
why
he's
can't
lying.
they see what they see, what the rest of us see?
Yeah.
And what kind of person puts a baby on these boats?
Yeah, but no, but the thing is, these people like Jones and Sam Rushworth, they're creating a narrative that is comfortable to them. We are offering refuge to these victims of the British Empire, these poor waifs and strays who are escaping war and torture, so many of them women and children. It's all a soothing lie they tell themselves. The truth is, we've got thousands and thousands of nearly all young male migrants crossing the Channel and taking us for a ride, and we are there for the taking. But that doesn't fit in with the way Sam Rushworth wants to look at things. They've created a lie for themselves, but it explains why this government not only isn't tackling the boat crisis, it isn't even interested in tackling the migrant crisis.
Yeah, and I cannot understand it. I genuinely think about this. Why on earth would you not want to tackle it? Why on earth would you not want to? So, I mean, you tell me. But one thing for certain is, come the next election, we shall see.
Yeah, they're certainly cruising for a boozing if they carry on like this. Talking of the pull factor, this is a statistic that has emerged today, a very alarming statistic it is too. There's a record number of foreigners now being given benefits in this country, 1.3 million. The number of foreign nationals receiving British welfare has risen by 20,000 in a year. So these figures refer to May just gone and May the year before. 1,300,000 foreign nationals getting British welfare. Why do we give foreign nationals welfare and benefits at all?
The welfare state should be a safety net. That's all it should be. It should be a safety net for people who have worked hard, contributed, and when they hit hard times, they lose their job, they're made redundant, they have an accident, it should be there to catch them, to get them back into work again. And if their health is so poor and they have contributed for a long time, then it should be there to obviously provide the basics for people. It should not be there for people who have just called this country their home. It's not right, it's not fair, and the people of this country are sick and tired of it. And I keep on saying it, kindness without discernment breeds resentment, and now you are getting huge waves of resentment across the public of this country. They've had enough. They've had enough of seeing these boats. They've had enough of higher taxes, paying for people to sit on benefits. Enough is enough.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. What's your... tomorrow, by the way, bunting is going up all around the country. Champagne is being prepared. It's in the cooler now because tomorrow, Nick, you'll be thrilled to learn it is the 1-month anniversary of Andy Burnham becoming our unelected Prime Minister. What's your school report on him? Because here's mine. he has achieved nothing, absolutely nothing. He's made a number of feel-good speeches, going to sort out social care, lots and lots of mayors, devolution, all that sort of thing. Rough sleepers, get someone to stay at Christmas, bus fares going down, all this hardly gets to the heart of the matter. The only thing he's actually achieved, these are just promises he keeps making. They don't actually happen. They're not happening because he can't afford them. He hasn't costed them out. But if you look at what he's actually achieved over this month, it's pretty much nothing except for the establishment of that ridiculous, inexplicable nonsense number 10 North. Apart from that, he has achieved nothing. The square root of sod all. I'm right, aren't I?
Absolutely right. But it doesn't help when you go on holiday within your first month.
I forgot about that.
I mean, you just cannot make this up. I'm honestly flabbergasted with everything that happens in front of me. You cannot believe these people treat this country like they do. He's achieved nothing, but when you take a week's holiday, it's hardly surprising that you achieve nothing, isn't it? I mean, it's come out with some, great promises. We're going to end homelessness. Who wouldn't want to end homelessness? But is he going to achieve it? I don't think he's.
Of course he's not.
One little bit. Not one little bit has he thought this through. And the numbers that he's talking about, he seems to think that the official figures are 4,000. I think you can times that by 3 at least. And half of these people don't want help.
Exactly right, Graham.
It's really hard to say. I know it's really hard. But I've worked alongside, as a member of Parliament, I've worked in places. I know these places. I know what it's like in Doncaster. And a lot of these people are
don't want it. They don't want to be given homes.
I'm not really being negative against them either in a lot of ways, because they're so scared of that change, so scared of going to an HMO that's full of drug users, so scared of going to an HMO where they're coming away from a dealer. These are really, really difficult problems. It's trying to obviously deal with the symptom and is not dealing with the root cause of these problems.
Yeah, you're exactly right, Graham. I'm glad you said that, because a few years back for this station, I did a kind of investigation into homelessness, and for my sins, spent a night on the streets in Windsor, funnily enough, right beneath the shadow of Windsor Castle. And what I learned was that the nature of the problem of homelessness, of rough sleeping, Andy Burnham and so many politicians have this idea of we just find them homes, they just got to find them homes, then it'll be all sorted out. But he presupposes that every single one of them wants to be found a home. About 50% of them don't. They don't want homes. They don't want to stop rough sleeping, and he hasn't factored that in. But he hasn't factored in much to his thinking at all so far as I can work out. Nick, always a pleasure to have you on the show. Great stuff as usual. Nick Fletcher there, former Conservative MP. Let's take a couple of phone calls. First of all, Sam in Blackpool. Hi, Sam.
Hi, Kevin. You okay?
I'm good. What would you like to say?
Well, several things. For one, Nick talks a lot of sense.
Yeah, no, I like Nick. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah. Andy Burnham...
Doesn't talk a lot of sense.
No. But I do agree, in one respect, that the north of England needs to be looked at more specifically, because everything's all about the south. It's always about London. It's always very south-centric.
Do you know why that is, Sam? Do you know why that is? It's because I live in London. So
is it you?
yeah, the whole world revolves around me.
Oh my God,
my wife keeps telling me. No, but seriously, you're right about the north. But do we actually need to spend, millions and millions of pounds on this stupid office in Manchester?
Absolutely not. What we need to do is talk to each other, and that's what they should be doing. But most politicians are IQ deficient, let's put it that way.
Well, they're not. I think this guy Burnham, though, I've been focusing on this today, Sam. He's just not at the races. He doesn't seem to understand what the important issues he should be dealing with are. Cheaper bus fares, tackling homelessness, very nice. Yeah, good luck. But we've got more important things to worry about, haven't we?
But what about children being raped and women being beaten and all the things that actually matter to the rest of us?
Yeah, exactly. You talk about the migrant crisis there. He just won't talk talk about it. And it's the issue that concerns, it's the number one issue that concerns people in this country, and he acts like it's not even there. It's a disgrace.
We're all afraid of saying it and being made out to be racist. It's not racism if you're talking about facts.
Of course it's not. Of course it's not racism.
We know that.
We've got villages, we've got
workers.
We've got communities that, you know, if you're living in a village or a community where they are planning to plonk 1,500 young male migrants, it isn't racism to be worried about that. There are lots of real reasons to be worried about that, right?
I have daughters.
Yeah.
The youngest one is about to turn 18 and I'll go off to uni. And I'm terrified if she gets into an Uber or she does anything that I don't want her to do. And she's going to be gone and I don't...
I'll
she's
tell
going down
you,
south.
you know what, Sam? This is the point.
I'm scared.
Yeah,
I'm genuinely scared as a parent.
Yeah, I bet you are. So are millions of other parents, and we shouldn't have to live. We shouldn't have to live like this on a different scale. I shouldn't be having to tell my wife, oh, you know, the tube station's 200 yards away. Don't you dare walk. You know, but I have to do. We shouldn't have to live like this. This is because of the migrant crisis and because of successive governments, especially this one, that will not do anything about it, and that is an utter disgrace. Sam, I've got to move on, but brilliant call. Thank you so much. Call me again. Sam in Blackpool there. Let's talk to Kate in Sussex. Hi, Kate.
Hi. Yes, hello. Love, great show as usual.
Thank you very much.
I just wanted to say that these leaflets that they're giving out, I mean, first of all, it's really frightening that you have to tell them, and we don't want them here anyway. We know what they're like. You know, we've got enough of our own. Let's say, here's a good idea, let's import a load. But what's worse is the fact that it's almost saying, if you abide by these laws, you will be welcome to
that is true.
Forevermore. And that's what really scares me. Once they've been given leave to stay, who knows what they'll get up to afterwards? The whole thing is just so...
It's frustrating. It's really frustrating. It makes you so angry. This is a Home Office pamphlet. The Sun are revealing this today, and we broke the news, must be 3/4 of an hour ago now.
Yes, I know.
The pamphlet is called Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers. And in this guide, they say, you ought to know, you know, just for FYI, you know, raping children, having sex with children is illegal in this country. Well, if you have to tell anyone that, I say they shouldn't be let in.
It's a throwaway remark, isn't it? Oh, by the way, you can't do this, you can't do that. I mean, the whole thing, they're not... I don't think this government understands. I mean, Andy Burnham, if I hear what he has from Greggs one more time and about the bloody buses, I'm going to go mad.
I'm so sick of his bus obsession. I'm sick of his empty face and his furrowed brow talking about the problem, social care and rough sleeping, bus fares. What about stop the boats? How about that? Why doesn't he talk about that, Kate?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, I mean, since I've retired and I downsized, my flat was £60 a month for energy. It's now £190 a month. And you think, and it's such a small flat, and you think, for pity's sake, but the migrant crisis is the main issue. It's ridiculous. I mean, you look at Piddington, that place that you were talking about.
Yeah, there's Linton on the Oosters. I mean, that's gonna be costing us £5.5 million a week. £750,000 a night to put these people up. 1,500 migrants in the middle of the village of Linton on Ouse in North Yorkshire. So that's just one place. The cost of this is astronomical, and we got a Prime Minister and a government, they either lie to themselves about this migrant crisis, talking about war, torture and the evils of the British Empire, absolute nonsense, or they don't talk about it at all. It's not good enough, Kate, it really isn't. Listen, really good call. Thank you very much for ringing. Call me again. That's Kate in Sussex expressing the frustration, I think, of many people in this country. Burnham, talk to us about what we want to talk about. You know, bus fares, great, rough sleeping, great, but that's not what we want to talk about. We want to talk about what you're going to do about the migrant crisis. You've got to stop this. And when we talk about what you want to do about the migrant crisis, we don't mean your spiteful little plan to dump more and more asylum seekers onto middle-class communities. That's pathetic, spiteful class warfare, and you're the Prime Minister. You should be better than that. You really, really should be. Let's go to break. When we come back, Samara Gill, Talk's Ace reporter, will join me, and I'll get her take on this pamphlet from the Home Office, Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, a guide for asylum seekers to help them maybe understand that it's against the law in Britain to rape children or to beat your wife up. Useful information for these people. I can't believe this. I can't believe it. I really can't. We'll talk to Samara about this next. Stay tuned.
Yusuf is one very, very popular amongst the base, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons he is popular is because he speaks from the hip. He speaks in a language and with an attitude that is shared in pubs up and down the country, but not necessarily in Westminster seminars.
Do you think he gets away with being a loose cannon, whereas Tim Montgomery doesn't? Tim Montgomery gets suspended, Yusuf gets hugged closer.
There's a big difference. Tim is an ordinary party member. He is not a spokesperson. He is not an elected member. He's not on the board. He literally has no role in the party.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. We're going back to this Home Office pamphlet, this booklet, a guide for asylum seekers, understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK, including the vital information to these waifs and strays from weird and foreign cultures that in Britain, sensationally, having sex with children is illegal. They need to know this, FYI. You know. Also, that more devastating news from them. They must be shocked to find that in this country, a husband is not allowed to beat his wife up. Shocking for them to learn this, to have to take this on board. The real restrictions of life in Britain being brought home to them in this Home Office pamphlet. As I keep saying, let me know what you think, but if you have to tell someone that it's illegal in this country to have sex with children, then the best policy would be not to let that person in. Let's talk to Talk's Ace reporter, Samara Gill. Hi, Samara.
Hi, Kev.
What are your thoughts on this, understanding behaviours and expectations in the UK? In some respects, you think, well, OK, it's not a bad idea to sell some of these people breaking into our country. It's not a bad idea to tell them some of our customs, the way of life here, to explain it. I assume that this pamphlet is translated into all the relevant languages. Because very few, contrary to what Sam Rashworth, a Labour MP, said, very few of these migrants can speak English. But my point, to the risk of repeating myself, is if you have to tell someone it's illegal to rape children in Britain, then you shouldn't let them in the country, should you?
Amen, Kev. I mean, really, it's an admission of guilt from the Home Office, because what they're actually saying is everything that the audience has been crying out about and said is an actual thing, and that, you know, we've been saying for years that there is a sex crime epidemic that is overtaking the country. All of that has actually now just been confirmed by this pamphlet. They're just basically going around the edges of things and not wanting to pinpoint the problem here. It's genuinely like, welcome to Britain. Here's your asylum paperwork, your accommodation information, and apparently a cartoon explaining why you mustn't have sex with children. It's seriously ridiculous. I'm sorry, are we supposed to regard this as the British public as normal?
Yeah, listen to this. So domestic abuse as well. Shock news for these people coming from sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, that in Britain it is actually illegal to beat your wife up. They must find that extremely onerous. Here it goes, domestic abuse. Domestic abuse is when someone hurts, threatens or controls their partner or family member. It can happen to anyone regardless of their gender, age or background. Domestic abuse includes physical violence, hitting, pushing, kicking or any physical harm, threats, saying you will hurt someone, blah, 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 controlling behaviour, emotional abuse. You know, it's like we're teaching these people or giving them a pamphlet saying, this is a pamphlet to help you be a decent human being. The implication being that without this pamphlet, they would go round raping children and beating up their wives.
Look, I mean, there's a very uncomfortable question underneath all this. You know, if the cultural gulf is so significantly large, the British state believes that grown adults need explicit instruction, that women are equals and that children are off limits. Shouldn't we be able to discuss that cultural gulf openly? That's the problem. The Labour government is constantly trying to shut down any discussion about this. And actually, yes, I believe a lot of cultures do need to be told where that line is. Even personally, someone in my family here in Britain is dealing with a relationship that they had with someone from one of those countries that comes across on all the boats. I can't talk about it too openly, but it was let's just say this guy didn't exactly know where the British law lay.
Well, the guy,
standing where it does. And I have to say, he actually genuinely had no clue that some of the things that he was doing, physical assault, etc., are just illegal. They are jailable offences.
Listen to this, Samara. This is the section on sex and consent. Sex and consent.
Yes.
This is what this useful Home Office pamphlet says. Consent means both people freely agree to sex or sexual contact. There you go. Really good information there. In the UK, the law is clear and strict. Both people must agree to sex or sexual contact of any kind. This means both people must say yes freely without threat or pressure. Someone can change their mind at any time, even if they said yes before. If someone's asleep, drunk or unable to respond, they cannot consent. So these people are having to be told this stuff. The fact that we have to tell them this stuff means we shouldn't even think about letting them into the country. They come from cultures that are far too different from ours.
It shows that the Home Office is well aware of this problem. They know that it exists.
Yeah, exactly.
They know that these people come from very, very different cultures to us that have very abstract thoughts about domestic abuse and violence against women and child sexual assault, I will say. Let's just cast our minds back to Hadush Kabutu. I don't know if many people remember him because there's been a litany of other sex attacks.
The Eritrean from the Bell Hotel, yeah? Is that
precisely. The guy who, after 1 week after he arrived...
Two women.
2 weeks after he arrived, he was staying at the Bell Hotel. He was convicted in September of 2025 of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl. And then, of course, we know about what happened there where he was accidentally released from the prison. You know, Shabana Mahmood basically had to end up bribing him to leave the country with £500. But interestingly, the courts, and it has been used time and time again, the human rights lawyers who are defending asylum seekers, illegal migrants who have committed sex attacks against minors and women, etc., a lot of the time they will use "he didn't know," or "in Ethiopia," and this was used in Hadush Kabutu's case, in where he is from, in Eritrea, it is legal.
To harass, sexually harass women. Let me just.
14 years old is the legal age of consent.
Yeah, because he sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl, and then a middle-aged woman tried to help her, to protect her, and then he sexually assaulted her. This is the section in this pamphlet, in this Home Office booklet, called Respect in Public. Again, this is what these migrants are being told. They shouldn't have to be told this. If they don't know this, then you can't come into this country. But they are being taught what is expected of you. When you are in public spaces, alone or with friends, you must never: 1. Make sexual comments to someone, even if you think it's a compliment. Whistle or make kissing noises at someone. Follow someone or block their path. Make rude or offensive gestures. Verbally abuse someone because of their gender, religion, or how they look. So again, this is what these migrants are being told, presumably on the basis if we don't tell them, they will do all these things because in their culture they're okay. This is an absolute shambles, isn't it?
This is seriously rock bottom in my mind, Kev. Honestly, this booklet is frightening and shocking about the current state of this country. I mean, consent isn't some sort of British eccentricity. It's the law.
That's true.
It's the law here. And, you know, integration, it requires a bit more than just translating a leaflet. The government needs to do way more about this. And, hey, if it's important enough for them to put in a book, and dare I say that all those things that you read out are things that might have actually happened, so that's why they need to put them in the book to make sure that others know not to do that. You know, it's important enough for politicians to discuss this. We've got a joke of a prime minister who is basically making sure that everyone is caring about the hot weather when we've got an epidemic going on in this country, and a massive migration crisis. And honestly, I mean, the fact that they continue to gaslight any member of the public that wants to discuss this freely, but then hand those books out in asylum hotels and HMOs, tells you everything you need to know about this government. Kev.
Absolutely right. Not getting to grips with the issue, but coming out with this pamphlet, this booklet from the Home Office that actually reveals that the government know all about the problems that these guys pose because they're listed in Understanding Behaviours and Expectations in the UK, this long booklet from the Home Office for migrants arriving here. It is, as you say, Samara, effectively a list of everything we know that the worst of them get up to. Not all of them, of course. We've got to stress that. Most migrants, you know, they're decent human beings. But there's this minority that don't understand our laws, think it's okay to have sex with children, think it's okay to beat their wives up and so on and so forth. Okay to make sexual comments in public, kissing noises, take pictures of people. They all think that's okay. So this is a revelation that the Home Office, our government, know exactly what these people get up to. And instead of stopping them coming into the country, they give them a pamphlet to say, please, could you not maybe rape children while you're here? Unbelievable. Samara, great to have you on the show as always. Samara Gill there, Talk Ace reporter, talking about this pamphlet, which I think, as she says, this is like ground zero. This is a new low point in the migrant crisis. It really, really is. Listen, I'm going to take some calls later. I've got lots of messages. I'll read those out. But next up, we're going to talk about the all-American drama unfolding in the White House. Natalie Harp, Caroline Leavitt, the Battle of the Blondes for the president's affections. Apparently Melania is extremely disconcerted about talk about her husband and Natalie Harp, who is the presidential executive assistant. So we'll talk about that next. Stay tuned.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the all-American drama unfolding in the White House. If you believe reports, it centres on Natalie Harp, very glamorous blonde, who is the president's executive assistant. She goes with him everywhere he goes. She was recently in Turkey on a presidential trip, and she came back with Donald Trump on the decoy plane. Now, the word was that Caroline Leavitt, another glamorous blonde, of course, brilliant press secretary, was left on Air Force One to go back to America, and that plane was in the firing line because there'd been a credible threat from the Iranians to Donald Trump's life, so it was all a decoy. Natalie Harp, chosen as the chosen one to go back on the decoy plane. We're told Caroline Leavitt very fed up that she went back on Air Force One, and that may have precipitated her recent resignation. But Melania apparently is getting more and more upset about the way people are talking more and more about her husband's relationship with Natalie Harp. Let's talk to Republican strategist, Miami Committee for Women member Angie Wong. Hi, Angie.
Hey, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Good to have you on the show. This is a very salacious story, but it is making all the papers, and it's worth talking about. Natalie Harp. Apparently, Melania is increasingly disconcerted by increasing reports about Natalie Harp, the presidential executive assistant, forming a closer and closer relationship with Donald Trump. She came back on the decoy plane from Turkey, where there was a threat to the president's life, whereas we're told Caroline Leavitt came back on Air Force One and wasn't at all pleased about that because Air Force One was in some danger. But it has emerged as this talk continues that while the president, or when he wasn't the president, while he was facing those legal problems in court in New York, charged with 34 felony counts of nefarious payments, that she would go, Natalie Harp would go to court with him every day. One day the SUV he travelled in was full up, so she got into the trunk of the car, or the boot, as we would say here in Britain. So that does indicate that she'll do anything to be with Donald. What is going on here? What is going on, do you think?
Kevin, I think a lot of it is just tabloid talk. You know, I love how the media is fascinated by the beautiful blondes.
Yeah, that's it. That's it.
Well.
Two good-looking blondes. Two good-looking blondes. You've got to talk about it.
Oh, there's more than that. I mean, look, President Trump has lots of aides around him. Not all of them are female, by the way.
No, of course.
We had a famous one, Hope Hicks, during his first administration.
Oh, that's right.
She was also taken down by the press, if you remember. And then more recently, Margot Martin, who follows President Trump around with her phone, making viral, I guess, YouTube videos. You know, she just does all of her social media. So, you know, he has these beautiful women, and he loves it surrounding him, because that's what he's used to. Probably his entire life he's had that. I don't think Melania in any way is jealous. I think she knows exactly who he is and who he keeps around. But the reason
that might be what's worrying her.
Maybe. I mean, look, she's a very pretty 35-year-old, but here's the reason why I know Trump keeps her around, and even in the boot of his SUV, is because Natalie Harp controls his Truth Social account. She's the one who types out everything. She's the one that does the spell checks. Every time he, maybe says, okay, Natalie, blast out this message about an endorsement, or this is what I'm going to say about Iran right now because I feel like it. She texts. She's the one who's, moving her thumbs.
She does the tweets, does she? Oh,
exactly.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, okay.
So she is with him everywhere.
Important job for Trump, isn't it?
It's the main communication tool that he has, and that's why she's in the boot of the trunk. He could just knock on the seat. Hey, Natalie, type this out for me. She's also known as the human printer. That's her nickname at the White House, is the human printer, because Trump still likes to have all his emails and correspondence printed out and given to him to read and respond. So that's what she does. She does a lot of things, but look, White House aides, they do all sorts of crazy things for the president. You had Hillary Clinton, who had an emergency mocha cake aide. She always had to have mocha cake around her. There was another one where I forget which, I think it was William Taft, who had the dog keeper. It wasn't even meant for, there was no pets, but it was like meant for in case there was a dog
In
that
case he
came
got
around.
a dog. In case he got a dog.
Not like everyone has these weird things.
Do you think, Angie? I mean, there's talk that Caroline Levitt was pretty fed up about being left on Air Force One while Natalie got onto the decoy plane. But do you think basically this is about, I mean, this happens in all organisations. The people who are closest to the big boss, the Supremo, are the ones that the other employees get pretty jealous of. Do you think that's what's going on here?
You know, I've been hearing rumors of Caroline Levitt leaving for quite some time, prior to the announcement that we had heard, and probably prior to the Turkey trip. So I think this has been happening a lot. Look, she's now a second-time mom. She's got a newborn baby. You know what happens. I remember when I had my kids, I couldn't put two sentences together. Could you imagine the press secretary of the White House having to put an entire speech that's going to affect the world when you're working on 20 minutes of sleep? So I get that this was a good time for Caroline Levitt to leave. She's leaving on such a high note. She's going to have every single media opportunity open to her when she wants to go back to work. And this is before, you know, the midterm elections and the 2028 elections, when we expect a lot of weird stuff to be happening in the press. So I think for her to leave now on such a high note and with such grace, I think this is perfect for her. I think it has nothing to do with being left on Air Force One.
Yeah, she's 28 years old, just had her second kid, and quite rightly she says, I don't think this job allows me to spend enough time with my young family. I think she's got a point there. An intriguing story. Next time we'll get you on, Angie. I promise we'll talk about something serious, but you got to admit those kind of stories are fun. Good to have you on the show. Fantastic stuff. Thank you very much to Angie Wong, their Republican strategist. Let's go to break. I'll read something. I've got lots of calls, I've got lots of messages, not much time left, but we'll get through as much of them as we can, so stay tuned.
Zia Yusuf is one very, very popular amongst the base, absolutely. And I think one of the reasons he is popular is because he speaks from the hip. He speaks in a language and with an attitude that is shared in pubs up and down the country, but not necessarily in Westminster seminars.
Do you think he gets away with being a loose cannon, whereas Tim Montgomery doesn't? Tim Montgomery gets suspended, Zia Yusuf gets hugged closer.
There's a big difference. Tim is an ordinary party member. He is not a spokesperson. He is not an elected member. He's not on the board. He literally has no role in the party.
across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's have a read of a few messages you've been kind enough to send me. This is from Deb, absolutely furious in Evesham. She says, I think it's absolutely disgusting that all of the politicians put these illegal and immoral immigrants before the British people. What is wrong with them? God only knows, Deb. This is from Isabel. She says, regarding the pamphlet from the Home Office, how many languages are they going to print them in? And secondly, if caught, they'll just say they can't read English or they can't read. Well, if caught, they'll still get done. You know, ignorance is no defence. I just think it's extraordinary that we're accepting that we have to produce a pamphlet to tell migrants who've broken into this country illegally that for some reason we're allowed to stay, that they mustn't rape children or beat their wives up. I mean, think about that. That's extraordinary, isn't it? You know, that proves that they're coming from cultures that we should not encourage into this country. It's a safety issue. It seriously is. As Tony says, so with this booklet, they'll just find something new and disgusting that's not in the booklet and use it in court. Yeah, I mean, the thing about this is it's not going to be a defence. They're not going to say, well, nobody gave me this pamphlet, therefore I didn't know I wasn't allowed to have sex with children. It's just a revelation that the authorities, the Home Office and our government know exactly what the dangers are with these people, that they don't necessarily understand that it's against the law to have sex with children, to rape children. They don't necessarily understand that it's against the law to sexually harass women or to beat their wives up. You know, it's just, you know, by revealing this, we're revealing why they shouldn't be let in the country in the first place. It's an absolute mess. Let's go to the phones. Let's talk to Caroline in London. Hi, Caroline.
Hi, Kevin. Great to talk to you again. Please let me make 3 points.
OK.
If that's all right. So I spoke to you a while ago and I said to you, I think that this is the plan. And at the time you didn't agree with me. Maybe you've changed your mind now. They have got no intention whatsoever of stopping.
Oh, that I agree with that. I agree with that.
Absolutely. And
why aren't they stopping the boats? Because they don't want to. I agree.
Exactly. So everything that comes out their mouth is gaslighting and lies on every single issue.
Yep.
And you know, it's really interesting that somebody told me that they went on to the Gov website to put and looked up Pakistan in terms of travelling to Pakistan, and there's a whole thing on the government website warning you that the culture in Pakistan doesn't go with the British values. I mean, it's so ironic because we've got the biggest Pakistani population in Europe.
Yeah, we have better values than they have in most developing countries, or certainly in sub-Saharan Africa and the Middle East, where most of our illegal migrants come from. Their cultures are primitive compared to ours. That is a fact.
Exactly. And then when I was listening this morning about this French MP wanting more money, at first I was horrified, but I've been thinking about it, Kevin. I don't blame them. I mean, I'm sure
I don't either. I mean, obviously we're not going to give them any more money. In fact, if possible, in a proper world, we get the money back. We demand the money back. But that politician, Xavier Bertrand, is making the point, how can we stop these people when you in Britain keep offering them all these incredible incentives? You offer them free stuff, the ability to stay in this country forever for the rest of their lives, and you expect us to stop them. Ain't gonna happen. He says stop the incentives and we might be able to stop the boats. He's right.
Exactly, and you know, and they're not going to. There's no other country in the world that's doing what we're doing. It's horrifying, but the British need to grow some, excuse my French, balls, because if we all stopped, literally millions, saying we're not paying any more electricity and we're not paying water because we're being run by a mafia. We're the most expensive. We can't live. We can't survive. And for the water companies to charge more money, it's horrific.
I mean, the only thing I would have to say, as a responsible presenter, broadcaster, you shouldn't really encourage people to break the law. If you don't pay your bills, that's against the law.
No. We withhold it. until it's
yeah, and then you'll find yourself in court for non-payment of your bills.
Millions.
You can't say it's okay, I'm withholding it. That's not a legal defence.
What do we do?
Yeah, well, not that, Caroline, not that. But I do understand. We've got to do something, but we mustn't break the law. Listen, Caroline, I've got to move on, but really good call as always. Good to talk to you, Caroline, in London. Let's go to Brian in Hertfordshire. Hi, Brian.
Hiya. Mine's quite a quick one.
Okay.
To try and get our point over about the immigrants is that we need to put a petition into the government to make them answer for their sins, should we say.
Yeah, we should.
So the one I've got set up is that we're basically complaining that they're spending our tax money on illegal immigrants when they shouldn't. Basically, I'm asking them to say, prove why you're doing it. What's the reason behind you giving our good tax money away? I mean, that's the first start. And then I think you yourself mentioned before about, I haven't really read about it yet, about the other part where we want to pull out, or was it the ECRH or whatever it's called?
The ECHR, the European Convention on Human Rights.
Yes, because at the end of the day, our human rights are being torn to pieces.
Ours are, but our government's not going to leave the ECHR. They think they think that's very special, and if we left that organisation, we wouldn't have any more human rights. It's another thing they're ridiculously wrong about. Brian, good call. Got to move on. Thank you very much, Brian in Hertfordshire. Let's listen to a voice note. This is Bill on the booklet.
I just had a thought. These leaflets that the Home Office, our wonderful forward-thinking Home Office, have issued, are they in English, which can't be read, or are they in about 50 different languages because we don't know the actual nationality of the people coming across? Just a quick thought.
Well, yeah, I'll tell you what, it's a good thought, but here's the deal. I'm thinking about this. Of course it will be translated into all the relevant languages. Because these people, contrary to what Sam Rushworth said, ludicrously to Jeremy Carr this morning on breakfast, he's the Labour MP for Bishop Auckland, contrary to what he said, that they can all speak English and that's why they're coming across, that's the pull factor. They can't. Hardly any of them can speak any English at all. Some of them, at best, broken English. So this will have to be translated. I think, if nothing else, think at a cost. It's going to cost us, unfortunately, more money for taxpayers to shell out for this ludicrous pamphlet. As I keep saying, if you've got to tell someone it's illegal to rape kids, if they don't understand that's inherently wrong, what the hell are we doing letting that person into the country? Let's talk to Mark in Glasgow. Hello, Mark.
Yeah, hi, good evening.
What would you like to say?
Right, well, it's something you were talking about a while ago. Somebody was asking about why it is we have all these people coming in, very much changing our culture, very much against our history, our laws, etc. And essentially it is down to, I think, Labour's ideology, certainly since Blair, if not before, has been one of breaking British society, breaking it down so that you can impose something different. This is going to be effectively socialism or communism, and that's why we're getting all this lot pouring in. And the basis of this, I hate using the expression again, Fabian society, at least 100 of our leading ministers are members, and if you'd simply, I'd ask all listeners, viewers, to look up the Fabian society. Look up their These people, and I think I include Andy Burnham, they're extreme left-wing socialists, what we used to call, when I was younger, communists. That's what devolution is all about. It's a form of communism. This guy's a Marxist, I think. And you're right, he is recalibrating this country in his own image. And he wants to attack migrant, middle-class people by plonking migrants in the middle of their villages and their towns, but doesn't have any plans to stop the migrants, which is a disgrace. It's a scandal. It's an abrogation of his duty, and it is wrong. Mark, good call. I've got to go, but thank you very much. I'll just read a couple of messages. Peter Carball's in the studio. He's just micing himself up. This is from MJ. The whistling bits and sexual unwanted comments is in this document, in this pamphlet, in the Home Office pamphlet, should have the heading, How
to not behave like the average workman in the UK. That's nonsense. Don't be ridiculous. The average workman in the UK, they might do a bit of wolf whistling, but they don't sexually harass and they don't rape children. So that's rather an asinine message. Pete Carver's in the studio. Hi, Pete.
Hi, I've been looking through this document as well. Really disturbing stuff. In a sense, I suppose, good that it's there, good that people are being told these things, but the fact they have to be told, the fact that their culture often
means they shouldn't be let in.
Well, exactly. It's so incredibly different from us. We're talking about rough sleepers as well, and Nigel Farage's comments about whether rough sleepers will actually encourage people to come.
Do you want to know the
this
problem
country.
with rough sleepers?
Yeah.
I know about this. Is about 50% of them don't want anywhere to sleep. They don't want a roof over their head.
That is definitely part of it as well.
Burnham doesn't understand that.
Yep, no, he doesn't. And they've also shifted the language, interestingly, Kevin, as you'll have seen as well, from we're going to end people sleeping on the streets to we're going to offer them accommodation.
Or we're giving someone to stay at Christmas.
Which actually absolutely comes to your point.
The ambition is getting smaller by the moment.
Yeah, we'll be reflecting on that with a former head of shelter, actually. Number 10 North as well. I mean, the Treasury and growth and all the rest of it. You can move civil servants wherever you want. You can move them to Darlington, you can move them to Manchester. Doesn't make a blind button of difference to growth and to the lives of people, and particularly our viewers and listeners. So we'll be talking about that as well.